It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio NHRA Nitro.
It's the most exciting sport on earth as far as I'm concerned.
Take a walk through the Nitro pits as we go one-on-one with the stars of drag racing.
Hey, you're with Matt Hagan. This is Ron Capps, Matt Hagan's personal friend. You're on WFO.
Featuring the NHRA's Alan Reinhart.
Our events are truly an experience. They're not just a spectator event. They are an experience.
So get in, sit down, and hold on with host Joe Castello as he goes WFO.
Thanks, brother. Always love being on WFO, baby. Nobody brings it to you better than you, brother.
Now crank it up. It's time to go WFO. Here's your host, Joe Castello.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. I'm your podcast host, Joe Castello. We have got a big show for you this week. We're headed to Brainerd, baby, the zoo, the Lucas Oil Nationals, as things get real out on the NHRA Mellow Yellow Series Tour. Just 8 races remaining in the 2019 Mellow Yellow Series season. Brainerd, Indy, countdown, that's it, Champion's Crown. Now, it is a bit of a long way to go, but every race is critical, and we have got a great show for you this week. On the show, we have Cruz Pedregon, whose back is absolutely against the wall. Sitting 11th in the point standings, Cruz is on the outside trying to fight and scrap his way into the top 10. It can happen because of 1.5 points at Indy, but it's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of good luck and a lot of things to go his way. Are they up to the challenge? We're going to speak with the cruiser and see exactly what he has to say. We're also going to speak with him about 1,320 feet. Every Nitro driver that comes on this show is going to have to answer this question. What do you think about it? Do you like the idea? Are you down? Are you in? What's the deal? And of course, we'll talk to the cruiser about the Raiders and Hard Knocks and the autumn wind. Cruz Pedregon is on WFO. Also on the show, he is NHRA's medical director, Dr. Phillip Surface. He is at the track each week, overseeing and making sure the racers are safe. He is our doc. And I want to introduce him to you, the WFO radio audience, because frankly, when he is on the scene, everybody is at ease. But he has got a great story. He's got a mechanical background, he has been a racer himself, and now, of course, he is the NHRA's medical director. He is a surgeon, was doing surgery just today, in fact. You will hear and get to know Dr. Phil Surface, our own Dr. Phil, here on WFO Radio. You are going to love it. And finally, from dragzine.com, his name is Brian Wagner. You probably have seen his work. He invited me on his Dragzine podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I am returning the favor. But this time, he has got one of the most amazing things I have ever seen. This past weekend was Bill Bader's Night Under Fire out there at Norwalk. Cruz Pedregon was in the race. Ron Capps was in the race. John Force, Robert Height, etc. were all in the race. But Bob Moat's jet truck burned down the wall of signs behind the burnout box, and Brian's photos are insane. We're going to talk to him about the photographs and get his takes on NHRA drag racing and his thoughts on the sport and the state of the sport as we see it. Brian Wagner, dragzine.com, Dr. Phillip Surface, Cruz Pedregon, and of course, Alan Reinhart, all on this edition of WFO Radio NHRA Nitro, which is brought to you by some great sponsors, and we love and appreciate them greatly, including welcome to WFO Radio Total Seal Piston Rings. Total Seal is the leader in piston ring technology. They can make custom sets for any specific piston you may have, and got some of the best engine builders in the business that use Total Seal rings. Go to TotalSeal.com or call 800-874-2753 for more information. MagicDryUS.com. Magic Dry, the official organic absorbent of the National Hot Rod Association. They keep Scott Palmer and Ricky House on track, as well as WFO Radio. So if you've got a spill, go to MagicDryUS.com. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and the Dragster Adventure, or you can get your Super Comp and Super Gas license. Go to frankhawley.com. Check out what they've got available. For me and my money, I think you and your family would love to do the Dragster Adventure. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, 130 miles per hour in the quarter mile, and they come to you August 16th, Maple Grove Raceway. 5 seats left. Get on that if you're out there at the Grove, baby. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more information. Marvin Rodak, RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. Hot sauces and spice rubs and everything good. Let's face it, grilling and eating and feeding is just one of the best things in life. And Marvin has got it down. He has taken it to another level. The coffee is gourmet from all parts of the world. He even makes drag racing-themed blends. They're roasted fresh per your order, and when they arrive, it is just like heaven. Go to RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com, RODAKS, or give him a call, 817-924-6821. And oh yes, we'll be getting together down there in Dallas. It will not be long till we're down there in the land of Marvin, Fort Worth, Texas area. 817-924-6821. That is RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology, the Samtech Factory Stock Showdown. Many graduates from Samtech now working in the series on various cars and on various crews. And if you're looking for a career in racing or high-performance engine building or just in something technical like CNC machining, Samtech can help you get started. Go to samtech.edu or call 713-683-3817. That is the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed. And check out that Factory Stock podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, by the way. We got a new episode coming up right before Indy. It is going to be great. HusseyPerformance.net, Hussey quality copper head gaskets. They power Sean Bellemere to a championship last year. They're on many of the top racers out there. If you're an engine builder and you use copper head gaskets, and I know you do, check out HusseyPerformance.net. And of course, Hangstifer's metalworking lubricants. Hangster's Laboratory has been doing it since 1937. Go to Hangstifers.com. JFR, DSR agree. Hangstifers, help them out in the machine shop. They can help you out as well. We also have some great cross-promotional ties like EV3 for your mobile device. It is a video game. There's a WFO radio series. And Drag Racing Edge magazine. Johnny D, it has been too long since you've been on the show, bud. We got to get John DeBartolomeo back on. New editions of Drag Racing Edge magazine constantly coming out. These are the people that help out WFO Radio. Thank you for allowing me to take the time. And now it is time to get on with the show. Joining us now, he is the voice of the NHRA and will be calling the action at the Lucas Oil Nationals, was also the first person to ever take me into the zoo, and I still remember it as if it was yesterday. Alan Reinhart joins us now. Alan, welcome back.
Hey, Joe, great to be back. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to getting back to work. I'm telling you, this 2 months off has been a long time.
It has been. It has been a long summer break for us. It's been like, 8 days or something. But I got to tell you, a long time.
It's only been 8 days?
I don't know what it's been. Everybody needs to know. WFO, we're in our 10th year, right? This is the 10th anniversary year of WFO, building up to the 10th anniversary later on. And here's the thing, is that Reinhart has been telling me stuff for many, many years that I just didn't quite understand. Like wanting to get back to the track after just a couple of days off and the winter break, and you'll want to get going again. And the hotel life, like not liking to make the bed. And now it all makes so much sense to me, Alan. I got to tell you, it makes so much sense after 8 days at home.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at my wall calendar. My last weekend at home was the weekend after Richmond, and that was May. And my next weekend home is going to be the weekend before Vegas, which is the weekend before Halloween. So it just seemed really, really weird to be home on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. But I know you follow me on Twitter. I don't know if you caught it or not, but I found out this weekend that I have a love seat.
Oh, really?
I had forgotten about that. I mean, I've always had this, 4-foot pile of clean laundry, and I just completely forgot that there was a love seat in there. So that was interesting to rediscover that.
Well, wonderful. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you spend a little time digging out at home. That is excellent. But now it's time to get back to the track. First time you brought me into the zoo, which, it's always a big part of Brainerd because people need to understand that this is, winter is coming. Let's face it, winter is coming. It's not right around the corner, but if you live in Minnesota, you're thinking about it. And this weekend is like, I don't want to say it's like the last gasp, but it's one of the last big fun party events that everybody can go and participate in. And so this weekend is a big, big deal to these folks, and they use it up. They go out there, they party hard, they have fun, they have a good time, and they leave nothing on the table.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And one of the beauties about Brainerd is because the campground is on site, you know, if you show up with whether it's a tent or whether it's $1 million motorhome, you've got everything you need. The place is very self-contained, so you can party it up, and you're not out driving, you're not out on the streets, you're not out, you know, creating any issues. You're just having a good time, and when it's time to go to the races, you literally can walk over to the racetrack or walk over to the pits. And if you want to take a break, you can walk back. And at night, they definitely whoop it up, no question about it.
Now, as much as we're talking about the fun we're all going to be having, it is going to be a little bit different this year because earlier this year, Jed, the owner of Brainerd, passed away in like a tragic accident. And that was at the start of the year, and we were like all shocked. He was out, on a boat. And bottom line, this is going to be the first race that we've had there since his passing. And so as much as it will be fun, and I'm sure Jed would have wanted us to have fun, that will be a big part of the weekend.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think that, Christie is trying to keep everything kind of going in his memory. You know, he was a guy who definitely lived life to the fullest and enjoyed every minute of it. And he really wanted people around him to be having a good time as well. And I think that's a tradition that his widow is going to continue. And, you know, there's plenty of friends, family, and folks up there that are going to be remembering him the way he'd want it done, which is a toast in front of a big fire, probably.
Yes, exactly. That's started by a jet car. Or
a motorized picnic table or whatever it may be.
So true, so true. All right, let's dive into, let's take a second to talk about this past weekend in that even though the Mellow Yellow Series, the pinnacle of all drag racing on the planet, was not in action, the sport of drag racing was very healthily being contested all around the country. A couple of examples. US 131 up there, Martin, Michigan. Clay Milliken, Dominic Lagana. By the way, Dom's birthday today. Match race, Top Fuel. I love the idea that there's still match racing that happens. Bill Bader, Night Under Fire. Norwalk, 40,000 people in there. Burned down the sign with Bob Moats. 6 Nitro funny cars, including today's guest, Cruz Pedregon, out there. He'll tell us about it. Very good to see that these kind of shows, even though it's not NHRA Mellow Yellow Series drag racing, are out there promoting drag racing and even nitro cars to people when the national event isn't necessarily there.
Yeah, it might have been the busiest weekend for drag racing without a national event in quite some time. Up in Boise, Idaho, they had their Night Under Fire, which is a huge booked-in show, nostalgia cars and big bracket race. The World Series of Pro Mod was going on out in Denver, and that has turned into a must-see event if you're a Pro Mod person. The Lucas Oil Series was actually running up at Brainerd, and somebody suggested, and you maybe can weigh in on this, they said that, the weekend before the Gator Nationals is known as the Baby Gators.
Yes.
So should the weekend before Brainerd be the petting zoo?
Why not? Until someone proposes something better, yes, let's go with it.
But there was stuff going on all over the country. If you wanted to go see racing, even though the Mellow Yellow Series was idle, if you wanted to go see racing, you wouldn't have to travel over a whole lot of time zones to do it. There was a whole lot of racing going on.
So true, so true. All right, let's dive into some serious discussion about what we are going to see over these next 2 races, in particular Brainerd. And the way the season plays out, like this is now the last race, and I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but that isn't 100% critical. Let's put it that way. We have seen some amazing things over the past couple of years, going back to the Headers era with the funny cars and big performances and great races and Billy Torrance, etc. Things happen at Brainerd, but you got to be working on your Indy/countdown program at this race. Can't really go off the reservation, and maybe if you had one last, maybe we could try something in those early qualifying sessions. But now this is it. This is the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I disagree with you on, this race not being necessarily critical. I think it kind of depends on who and where you are. If you're Tim Wilkerson and Cruz Pedregon, this race is critical because your last chance to make a move before Indy. You know, if Cruz doesn't make some ground here, yes, Indy's 1.5 points, but if Tim picks up a couple of rounds on him, then it's going to be all but out of reach. On the other side of it, if Cruz can pick up a couple of rounds here and close the gap, then pressure really on Wilkerson as those guys fight for that last spot. It's critical for Billy Torrance, no question about it. If he goes out and wins the race, then all of a sudden he's back in the countdown conversation again. You know, we've been talking about it for the last, 4 months? Hey, why didn't he go to more races? Why didn't he just pick up a couple more? Because the way the car's running. But if he goes out there in Brainerd and does not have a positive showing, then, you know, I'm not saying the countdown dream is over, but it's going to be a whole lot taller mountain to climb. You know, you look at Scott Palmer, you look at Terry McMillan, you look at some of the guys that are trying to battle their way around that top 10. And I think Brainerd is very critical. You know, a little bit of breathing room here could go a long way, or a little bit of gap closure here could go a long way as far as everything from mathematical possibilities to confidence going into Indy. I think this race is extremely critical.
No, point taken. Even in pro stock, Fernando Quadra and Kenny Delco, nice little fight for that last 10th position. Going to be interesting to see. And no, I definitely take your point. Thank you very much, NHRA Countdown, right? The playoff system is turning like interesting stories at the bottom of the top 10 into critical stories.
Yeah, you know, Steve Torrance is obviously trying to get back onto his winning ways, and you look at Austin Prock, how much confidence you think those guys are going to have coming in there, a little extra spring in their step. John Force is proven again that he's still capable of winning, and I think that that's going to add a whole lot to their team's confidence. I think there's a whole lot of different storylines that we're going to be following throughout the course of this weekend, and it'll be interesting. I haven't even looked, I don't know if you have or not, about what the alcohol entry lists are like, but I'm assuming that all of the Myers cars are going to be there. I've assumed that Troy Coughlin will be there. I don't know if Cowie's making the trek or not, but this could be an important race in that championship as well. I think that there's going to be a whole lot going on here that, you know, a lot of it has kind of Indy overtones, but, you know, getting prepared for that is going to be very important.
All right. Since you mentioned it, there's 14 cars entered in Top Alcohol Dragster. Joey Severance, Sean Cowie, Megan Meyer, Jackie Frick, Dwayne Shields, Julie Naddis, Chris Demke, Robin Samsel, Dean Dubbin, Gord Jingles, Brian Inouye. Is that how I say that? Marina Anderson, Jasmine Salinas, and Krista Baldwin. So, yes, good quality cars, but no Troy.
No Troy Coughlin?
Not on this entry list that I'm seeing.
Okay, I am a little surprised, but you got some real firepower there in the alcohol dragster ranks, and I guarantee you that Joey Severance is going to be coming in with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder after not racing up in Seattle. I just think they've got a little bit of extra motivation coming into this one.
Absolutely. Just all kinds of different points championships shaping up as well. Mickey Thompson, Top Fuel Harley with, Ty Tharp, Doug Vansel, those guys battling it out. And we remember what happened 1 year ago. They went down to the final round of the final race.
Yeah, and, the quality of those machines and the number of good runs that they put down the racetrack has just continued to increase. You know, now that I'm, a big bad biker dude myself, I took a whole lot more interest in those Nitro Harleys. Plus, I did Nitro Harley school in Seattle, so I now have intimate knowledge of their machines, and I think I'm far and away the leading expert in the field now.
Oh well, I have no doubt about that. Ty. For those that don't know, Alan Reinhart picked up a hog when he was out in, where was that? In Seattle? Oregon. Yeah. You're
Woodburn, Oregon.
You're like a Black Widow now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go with that.
Well, you remember Any Which Way But Loose, right? With Philo Beto?
Mm-hmm.
The biker gang that was chasing him around?
Yep. That's me.
More people die from Black Widow bites than rattlesnakes every year, so they say. But I get your point, though. You're very knowledgeable about this. Ty Tharp leads. Bo Lane is second, but obviously Bo not going to be running. And obviously we, been following along on his Facebook page as we've been talking about, and he's posting away. We'll eventually get back. Doug Mansell, third and technically second, about 50 points or so back, 48. that's still a close race with 2 races to go.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to be a matter of somebody needs to make a statement here. With Indy being their season finale, an extra round could be the difference between a championship and not a championship. And both of those guys have very good machines. But the problem with the Nitro Harleys is that it's not necessarily just the 2 guys anymore. As I said, there's so many good bikes in the field. You can't look at the ladder and go, okay, boy, when I get to the final, Joe's going to be tough. Because if you're looking past a first round or a second round, then you're not going to get to the final. Everybody out there is that good now.
Yes, and that's just an example of what happens when you put a world championship on the line and you get it sponsored by Mickey Thompson, and you tell these guys, hey, you're going to have a consistent place to race on a consistent track with a bunch of fans. You're going to get to come out in front of packed grandstands. Everybody raises their game. And we've seen it. We saw it happen in E3 Sparkplugs Pro Modified from, a wild thrill show style racing in backwoods tracks in the South to now one of the most competitive classes in all of drag racing. That's just what happens. And, maybe some people eventually lament the way it used to be, right? Like, oh, man, it was better back in the day when people were crashing and they were running over guardrails and stuff. I like it better now where you've got the best in the world battling it out.
And there's still been plenty of highlight reel images coming out of the pro mods this year, and definitely more than my liking. I hate to see equipment get torn up, and I especially hate to see anybody get hurt when they're out there chasing their passion. Those things are still on the edge, and they're still plenty exciting, at least from where I'm sitting. I don't want to go back to the good old days. I think they're much better off now than they were then, and they're still edgy enough, I think, to keep everybody's interest.
I agree. All right, we've been all over the place, but it's a great conversation, and I love these kind of free-flowing, freewheeling discussions with you. But I do want to dial in on a couple things, since I'm looking at the points for Top Fuel, and I see Steve sitting at the top, 621 ahead of Antron, who was second, Clay Milliken, who was third, and I'm thinking that those guys haven't won a race, and it's just kind of shocking, but not really, given that Steve is gobbling up all these wins this year, and when he's not winning, his dad is winning, that kind of situation. Mike Salinas has got a couple of wins, but has missed a couple of races. For your, expertise and all, like when you think about the best of the rest right now, do the points tell the tale? Antron Brown, Clay Milliken, best of the rest that aren't Steve and Billy?
No, I don't think so. I think Mike Salinas, just the Alan Johnson factor. And I mean, no disrespect to Antron's guys or certainly to Clay's guys. I think Clay has been the shining star of the year that wasn't expected. I think a lot of people, when David Grubnick left, went, all right, well, I'm never going to hear from him again. And the job that they've done has been incredible. You mentioned the fact that Steve has been sucking up all the trophies, and he hasn't left a whole lot for anybody else, but that Clay Milliken car is for real. But I think that when the championship comes down to the end of the year, you're going to be looking at Brittany, Mike Salinas, Steve Torrance, and if Billy makes a countdown, then he makes that list too. That would be my top 4 at the end of the year, and then I would put Antron and Clay Milliken basically at a coin flip for the number 5 spot. And that's just based on how they have performed over the course of the last couple of months. That could change. That could change by the end of Indy if Doug Coletta busts out of a slump. If Richie Crampton gets back into his winning ways. If there's, what happened to Terry McMillan? First part of the season, that car was putting up big numbers, was running solid, and looked like a contender. And it just looks like their consistency fell out of the back of the truck someplace. If they find that, I'm not making my do or done line. I'm just saying that, as of what I've seen lately, those are the cars that I think have the best shot at running down the championship. But there are certainly others that could join the conversation, but they're going to need to show me something.
Absolutely. Totally agree in that, to go 6 races, the countdown is still relatively new. And we're learning, and some people are resistant to it, but the fact of the matter is this. It requires a great 6-race stretch if you're going to win it. You've got to do something that is, over the top if you're going to win the countdown. Really hard. Like, we haven't seen someone back into a countdown win yet. that I can recall. It doesn't where it's just ugly. Where it's just ugly.
Torrance.
Yeah, Torrance. Right. He kind of backed into it last year, but other than that, you can't back into a countdown win. You just can't. You can't win ugly. At least we have not seen it yet. Where, you win a race and lose first round, and then someone wins and loses first round. And, I don't know how or what that would look like. But I agree it's going to take some sort of big-time step up. But Alan Johnson, like Mike Salinas has told us, that the whole regular season is a test session for Alan Johnson. What are they working on? What are they doing? David Grubnick alluded to some things on the starting line last race out. Like, yeah, we've really been working on things the whole time. So do they flip a switch, like countdown ready? What does that look like? I'll be interested to see.
We will definitely find that out within the next couple of weeks because, I think you're going to see a more competitive Brainerd this year than even in the recent past. And one of the reasons is the Indy test session that has been tradition now for, 15 years, whatever. It's been a while. Not going to take place this year. So the teams aren't going to go, okay, let's just get through Brainerd, then we can go, have 3 or 4 days to work on getting everything ready for Indy, because that's not going to happen. So I think that this is going to be the time when you've got to make sure your ducks are all lined up for the U.S. Nationals and then to run through the countdown to the championship. And that's another reason that I think that this race is critical, because this is it. There's no, okay, we've been doing this and that, but we'll get it straightened out next week before Indy, because next week before Indy doesn't exist this year.
And why is that?
A couple of reasons. A lot of the teams didn't want to do it. And I think NHRA was okay with kind of putting it off to the side as well. I think a big part of it is cost savings. They're as expensive as it is to run these cars, even when you're doing it at home. If you're at Indy, the vast majority of the crew guys are sleeping in their own beds, so you don't have a bunch of travel expense. You don't have hotels and plane tickets and that kind of stuff. But it still costs money to run the car. And if some teams are out there testing, then other teams almost have to go, or you feel like you're getting left behind. And I think if everybody decides, look, we're going to sit home, we're going to do this, it's got to save, the Schumachers, the Forces, the Colittas of the world north of $100,000 when you consider how many cars they're going to be running up and down the track. And when you also look at the fact that Steve Torrance last year didn't go to the Indy test, and if you need somebody to prove to you that you don't have to go testing before Indy to have a good countdown, Exhibit A over here with a cowboy hat.
So true.
If you got your car running, then save the money, stay home, get your guys rested, and get ready for that countdown to the championship run.
There you have it. Funny Car, on the other hand, different category, different feel. Nobody has been, maybe they've been testing some stuff, but everyone has had to have been in some form of countdown mode for a while now, right? Look at our reigning champ, J.R. Todd, sitting 8th in the points and has had a decent year. It's just brutal. It's just the competition is brutal. You got Robert Height and John Force sitting at the top, but Robert's 186 ahead of John, and then John on back to let's call it 8th with J.R. Todd. 150 points or so. That's very close competition.
Yeah, Robert's having a very good year. Not quite a Steve Torrance year, but certainly a very good year. And Jimmy Prock, as a general rule, doesn't go into a whole lot of test mode. He's in sledgehammer mode from the first qualifying run of the season to the last run down the racetrack out at Auto Club Speedway. And I think some of the other teams may have been playing with some stuff here and there. John Force has been pretty adamant about the fact that, they've been making adjustments to the car, doing different things, not necessarily performance things, but just things to try to get John more comfortable and more consistent. And, you look at where he is in the points, I think that's paying off. This is Tommy Johnson's best chance to win a championship, I think, since he started racing full-time for Don Schumacher in the funny cars. He's just having a tremendous year. The qualifying in funny car, the Friday night or Saturday night at Indy, whatever it's going to be, the qualifying in funny car has become so crucial now, because if you slip up and you end up in the 9, 10, 11, 12 spot, you've just made your day that much more difficult, because you're going to have 4 countdown contenders to go through in order to win. And if you qualify in the 4th, 5th, 6th spot, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to race a countdown competitor in the first round as well. But at least if you're the higher qualified car, your confidence is a little bit higher. going into that first round. So that's, Robert's got a great car right now. I really feel like it's his championship to lose, and I think they've shown that all year long. But we need to find out if some of the other guys have been sitting on something, just waiting to spring it on everybody in the countdown. And we're going to find that out. Again, we're going to find it out in Brainerd because you're not going to have the Indy test to get everything settled in.
Just another interesting note. In Top Fuel, there is one driver over 1,000 points. It's Steve Torrance, who actually is above 1,500 points. The next closest has got 966. That'll change after this weekend. But in Funny Car, you've got 5 drivers over 1,000 points. And so just interesting, the different level of competition and parity in those two eliminators at the moment. Pro Stock, on the other hand, Bo leads the points. Greg is back. Greg Anderson is back, second in the standings. Alex Laughlin third. Been showing a lot of promise. Lump Self doing a great job with the car. Just they haven't been able to really close the deal just yet. That could come in bunches. And then the big Matt Hartford win, showing that, a team of guys that rent a motor and know what they're doing can get out there and compete. That's good for Pro Stock.
I agree 100%. The fact that, and we've talked about it over and over and over again, no time in the history of Pro Stock has somebody with a checkbook been able to walk in and get competitive horsepower. There were times when Steve Schmidt might have 7 or 8 motors in the field, but Warren Johnson and Bob Glidden still ruled the roost. And there were times when Rare Morrison would rent you a good, solid, competitive engine, but you still weren't going to qualify number one, and those race wins on a leased engine were really, really few and far between. These days, you can lease the horsepower to win. You got to be able to put the rest of it together. And I am flummoxed a little bit about just exactly what's going on over at Elite. There is no question that their engines are making good power. So why have Erica and Jeg been, almost completely absent from the winner's circle this year? There's nobody in the world that thinks Erica forgot how to drive a race car or that Jake forgot how to drive a race car. And when you look at the fact that their engines are being competitive and doing well, what is it about the home base over there that is keeping them from being more competitive? And I guarantee you Richard Freeman would like to have the answer to that question as well, because he'd fix it. Absolutely.
And, Jag has had some bad luck. He had a battery go dead a couple of races ago, just bizarre stuff happening. Erica has been on the tree, just not getting those win lights. Maybe they'll turn it around. Maybe it'll happen this weekend. Even Chris McGahey, right, sitting 9th in the point standings, but they are making power. Like the McGahey engines are fast, but when it comes to they're... one Norwalk, but still sitting 9th in the standings.
Chris's car is running very well, and I don't think I'm telling tales behind, out of school, and I think he'd tell you the same thing. He needs to get, as a driver, I think he needs to get back in the game. He's had some breakdowns on the starting line and just some mental things, and whether it's, business or this or that or whatever's got him clouded up, I don't know. But he's certainly got a car that's capable of winning races. I think he needs to do a little bit better job with it, and I think he would tell you exactly the same thing. But that's, again, that's why I can't figure out the Elite puzzle. Is they've got all the brain power over there, plenty of horsepower over there, but those trophies have been really, really tough to come by. You look at this late into the season, and again, we talked about, with John Force, who finally broke through, with Greg Anderson, who finally broke through, but Jason Line hasn't been to the winner's circle yet this year. And there's a lot of talent in Pro Stock that you just kind of wonder what's going on. They've got all the ingredients over there. Why can't they put it together and make a cake? And they just for whatever reason haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. But then again, you watch certain sessions or rounds of racing, like last time out, right, where everybody in the round was like 55 or 56, some sort of something like that, where everybody's running the exact same ET, and so it all comes down to the combination of the driver and the car on that given run and a couple of thou either way.
I agree, but you give me 4 equal cars going into the semifinals, and if Erica's my driver, I like my chances. But they haven't been able to get it done and close the deal, and I don't understand that. There's something somewhere that's being missed or overlooked or not exactly fine tuned. And if they find it, man, look out, because we've seen what Erica is capable of when she's got the best car, and we've seen what Erica's capable of when she doesn't have the best car, but she has to have a consistently competitive car. And at this point, there's just something missing over there, and I think they would tell you exactly the same thing.
Absolutely. No, it is very interesting, and that's why this race this weekend is very important. Got to get it all sorted out. This is it. Get it sorted out. Brainerd Indy Countdown. Here we are. Alan, any final thoughts you want to add? Any discussion points you'd like to put on the table for the WFO radio audience to consider as we get ready for the Lucas Oil Nationals?
No, I'm just glad that you didn't bring Stump the Dummy out of mothballs while we had the week off on the national tour.
They have had so much opportunity to ask questions of you nowadays. It's a little different.
Okay, well, maybe you're right. But no, I'm looking forward to getting back on an airplane, and instead I'm looking at my calendar. My next weekend off is going to be the weekend before Halloween, and that's only if I can't figure out a way to book something on that weekend. So I'm looking forward to getting back in the swing of it. 8 days home was too many for me.
There you have it. Alan, great job as usual. Thank you so much for starting us off right here on WFO.
Thanks, Joe. You travel safe, and I will see you in a couple of days up north.
There he goes, the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us each week right here on WFO Radio. In my time at the tail end of the show, I'm going to tell the story of the first time in the zoo with Alan Reinhart. We didn't get to touch on it there. It was kind of like a freewheeling conversation as we've been off for a few days and just got to reset and get ready for Brainerd. And he's absolutely right with the top 10 in the points. Like Cruiser, our next guest. Let me tell you something, a little preview here. You are not going to want to miss Cruz Pedregon. Trust me on this. A lot of great stuff going to come out of this conversation. I predict. I have a sense. I feel it. Also, Dr. Phillip Surface, the NHRA medical director. You're going to love hearing from Dr. Phil. And, of course, Brian Wagner, all on the show. Then on my time, I will recap and recount my first time in the zoo. It was really fun and exciting. But right now, I want to welcome Total Seal Piston Rings as a new sponsor to WFO Radio. Total Seal is the leader in piston ring technology with the ability to meet whatever special needs you may have. From NHRA drag racing to NASCAR to IndyCar, Total Seal can fit rings into your piston. They go out of their way to help their customers and will make custom sets for any specific piston you may have. So my engine builders out there, whose piston rings are you using? Well, a lot of the top engine builders, like many, use Total Seal because they provide better seal, which means more power. And also, very importantly, Total Seal rings are manufactured in the United States. The Total Seal facility is located in Phoenix, Arizona, and houses research and development equipment, manufacturing machinery, and technology focusing on developing and manufacturing piston rings for any and all applications. Want to find out more information? Go to TotalSeal.com or call 800-874-2753. That's 800-874-2753. We want to welcome Total Seal. Great stuff going on. Been in the business for a long time, and now they are supporting WFO Radio. Total Seal, the leader in ring seal technology. TotalSeal.com. When we come back, you're going to hear from Cruz Pedregon, the cruiser, the two-time champ. What's he got to say? You're not going to want to miss it.
This is WFO Radio.
Hussey Performance copper head gaskets. Do you make big power? That's the question. Hussey Performance specializes in quality copper gaskets to your exact specs. Any bore, any size and thickness. From 500 cubic inch nitro burning Hemis to turbocharged Pro Mods to Honda engines or even big tractors, Hussey Performance makes the gaskets. If you're a racer, you're thinking about, well, how long does this take? Typically less than a week. They want to help you make the race. Next day shipping is also available. What to do? You got to call David directly, 724-318-8292, or go to husseyperformance.net. And one more thing, it's all made in America, including the machines they use. That is huge. 724-318-8292, Hussey Performance, copper head gaskets for you engine builders out there. These guys are supporting WFO. Check them out. It is husseyperformance.net.
Start your education at full speed with the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Accelerate your career as a high-performance engine builder with classroom instruction and practical hands-on experience in the lab, on the dyno, and at the track. In addition to the blockhead and CNC programs, SAM now offers motorsport EFI tuning and an Associates of Applied Science degree. And SAM is a military-friendly school, approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Start your education at full speed. Go to samtech.edu today.
Drag Racing Edge. That's the magazine. Subscribe online. Get the issues, $24.95. Keep up with your favorite sport, whether it be NHRA Mellow Yellow, Lucas Oil Series action. They cover drag radial. They cover it all. Drag Racing Edge magazine.
Hey, this is Scott Palmer, driver of the NHRA Cat Spot Litter Top Fuel Dragster. Do you have a cat? Go to catspotlitter.com. Order it today. All natural product made out of coconuts, 100% biodegradable. All you NHRA fan, cat owners, support our team. Go to catspotlitter.com.
Subscribe to WFO Radio on iTunes. Never miss a show. And don't forget to write a review. WFO.
Now, back to WFO Radio NHRA Nitro.
Welcome back to NHRA Nitro Podcast, WFO Radio. You can get us on Spotify. You can get us on Apple Podcasts. You can get us anywhere you can get your podcast. We've got a little moving day coming soon, though. We're going to ask you to, make a move. I'm not going to give you specific instructions until the time comes to do the specific instructions, but I'm making you aware that we're going to be asking you to do something at some point. Are you ready? You got it good. Oh, yeah. Got to get ready, baby. Got to get ready for Indy. Got to get ready for everything, and we want you to be prepared. You know, a great thing you can be prepared for, or a great way to be prepared, is to get a little Rodax coffee. Did I ever tell you that Marvin Rodak's been doing this since 1976? Yes, Joe, you have. Yes, you have, every week. Well, he has. It's a great story. To me, the guy is working in like a restoration shop, and he shuffles into the break room, and there's no coffee in there, and it's all crusty and gross, and he says, there's got to be a better way. Necessity is the mother of invention. So he educates himself and becomes the premier guy when it comes to coffee in all of Texas. Since 1976, Marvin Rodak and RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com has been brewing it up, baby. Roasted fresh per your order, whether it be exotic coffees or domestic coffees or blends that he makes, espressos. He's got it going on. Like the Funny Car Chaos is incredible. If you haven't tried it, it is amazing. Here's the deal. Go to the website. I can pump it up and hype it up all I want. The fact of the matter is this. At some point, you just got to take the dive. You got to just trust. You got to say, you know what, this Castello, he sounds like he's telling the truth. I'm going to try this coffee, and I'm going to go through the Rodax experience. You call 817-924-6821, and you talk to him about it. Like, what do you like? What are you into? What do you think? What's he got going on? You check out one of those drag racing blends. He roasts it fresh per your order. The box arrives at your house. Now, I like to get one of the kits, one of the holiday packs, right? Throw in some hot sauces and some spice rubs all into one package. He's going to mail it out anyway, right? Get a big pack. And then it shows up at your door, and you open it up, and this aroma fills your house, and you're like, oh, my goodness, this is the best thing ever. You can order it full bean, or you can order it already ground. It depends. Do you have a grinder? I like to grind my own coffee. Why? I don't know. Something to do. 817-924-6821. They sell grills, they got tools, they got recipes, all kinds of stuff. Go to the website, RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com, and give Marvin a call. You know the holidays are coming. It's not that far to think, maybe I'll just get all my friends Rodax holiday packs this year and make it easy. And everyone will be happy for about 6 months afterwards. 817-924-6821. That's RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. All right. Joining us now on WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. His back is against the wall, but he has always been a fighter, and I'm not betting against this guy. He's a two-time Mellow Yellow Funny Car champ, sitting 11th in the point standings. Cruz Pedregon. Cruiser, welcome back to WFO. How are you?
Joe, how you doing, man?
I am great. I'm excited. I'm happy about what's going on in the season. You're certainly running the best you've been all season. Can you get this thing done?
Well, we've got an uphill battle, no doubt about it. I mean, it's not a lot of races left, and just when we thought, we needed to get it going, and we did to a certain degree in Seattle. We went out there and lost to the guy that one of the guys are trying to knock out of the 10, and Sean and that group, the Global car, they ran well, and we we try to push a little harder, and it spun the tires. So no excuses, but I will say this. The car is actually running better than it's run all year. Own it, and we know where to adjust it and how to adjust it. So we feel good about the car, the Snap-on car, going into Brainerd and beyond. But, it's not a lot of time for us, and we're being realistic. We did a match race Saturday night in Norwalk and tried some new clutch stuff that we're going to implement here probably in Brainerd. And so we did run the car Saturday. And so, yeah, we're ready for Brainerd. We just got to, I always look at it as, man, we can't try to do too much. You just got to go out there and get qualified. The biggest thing for me and our team is try to qualify in the top half so we can have a little breathing room, not have to come out, and really backs against the wall, so to speak. So that's what we're going to try to do.
So you were at Night Under Fire. I saw some photographs of it. It was insane. Everybody tells me, Joe, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. It's unbelievable. You don't understand. And, that would mean getting on a plane. My listeners have heard me talk about this over the past couple of weeks. Everybody says, I got to go. All right, Cruz, you were there. Tell me about it. Like, what happened? I saw the photos. Moat's burning down the wall of signs back there. How was it?
Joe, it's a must-see race, must-be-there race. It's the absolute biggest crowd you'll ever see at a drag race. Yes, I said it. The numbers prove it. I think there's 40,000 plus. They're all a lot of families, a lot of kids, but really a lot of people that
your call. Bye.
The track promoter does a great job. He brings jet cars. He brings wheel standers, kind of old school stuff we used to see back when everybody except have a lot of streakers back in the day. We didn't have any streakers, but the staff dresses up in tuxedos, the starting line group, and so it's really a fun event. They bring in some really good cars. Our car, John Forrest, Robert Height, I believe Caps. They had Creasy there, and I think in Wilkerson. So there were 6 really top-notch cars. And hey, we put on a show. A lot of fireworks, a lot of good stuff, man. So it was fun to do. Late night, I left the shop. We left the shop in our car at 7 in the morning, and we didn't get back until 6 in the morning. So it was a 24-hour day, but we had a good time.
Wow, that is super cool. That's old school drag racing right there. And I know up at US 131, Dom Lagana and Clay Milliken were match racing. That's cool, man. That's cool that there were things going on. Even when the NHRA Big Show is taking a weekend off after the Western Swing, you guys are running these cars. And most importantly for you, you were able to try something, to maybe learn something that can help you this weekend in Brainerd.
Yeah, we were looking at the data from Seattle, and where the guys were outrunning us consistently was out in the middle of the track and running a little bit faster through that area. So we worked on that part of the course for our car. So yeah, that was an area there that we felt we needed. There's some deficiencies there, and then we tried to push it against their first round there, and it just came loose. So there's a different way to do it. Hopefully we'll get it dialed in there in Brainerd and qualifying, like I said, so we can qualify a little bit better, so we're not having to come out there swinging as hard. You got to take a little speed off your fastball once in a while. So that's what we're going to try to do.
So the story is that you're sitting 11th, about 140 some odd points behind Tim Wilkerson, who is 10th.
Right.
Langdon is a little more in front of you, and this is a dog-eat-dog world. 1.5 points at Indy. It is, in fact, possible. You go a couple of rounds here. Wilk has a problem. Who knows? You could win the U.S. Nationals, Cruz. That is possible. The car is running well. And more importantly, you found a problem. I heard you talking about scuffing pistons several times earlier this year, and I haven't heard you talk about that anymore. Is that problem solved?
Yeah, I think so. And, make no mistake about it, is everyone has especially funny car, has a degree of piston scuffing. It's not nothing that we did on our own. It was just to the degree we had it. I think it seemed like we were experiencing it a little worse than most, but we feel like we've managed that. We still have a little bit of scuffing, but I think that's inherent with 11,000 horsepower and these crazy blowers that we have. They're ported and all the stuff that we have to run the speed. That's the weak link of the whole engine is the pistons. That's just part of, they're in the line of fire, so to speak. So I feel like, I think that really hurt us, early summer and really put us behind. And I detuned the car thinking it was the tune-up. And by the time we figured out how to fix it. We were in Denver basically. So, it's just one of those things we can, we had our opportunities, and then the guys in front of me, Langdon and Wilkerson, they're not cooperating. Just when I think, hey, maybe we can get a little, get some on these guys, and they go out there and have a good race. It's happened to both of them. Langdon went to the finals at one of the races, and then Wilkerson's always strong, and especially this time of year, I don't think those guys are going to slow down. I think we have to go out there, bang out some round wins, try to weave our way and find our way to the semis or the finals, and did just do that for 2 races in a row. And I think we'll be okay. But tough road, but I'm confident that the guys are up to it. They drove all across the country to go to the match race. They were there. They put the car together right. So it's just a matter of going out there and executing. So I think we're up to it. Whether or not it'll happen, who knows?
Now, you mentioned Langdon, that dust-up that happened, I guess it was Epping, was, it was one of the high points of the season. We always talk, everybody says, we want guys to go at each other, respectfully, of course, but about certain issues to make it interesting, that kind of WWF talking that happens, but in the context of real competition here and drag racing. That seemed to happen, and it seems like, at this point that the hatchet has been buried. Then again, you guys had to run first round last race. Is there, you came out on the losing end, which is obviously terrible for your side of it. For Sean, I'm sure he's super stoked. But, is that over? Is that thing over? And, Sean's a nice kid. You're a nice guy. But you just disagreed on that one point.
Yeah, I don't have time to get caught up in all that stuff. I've got bigger fish to fry. I've got my head buried in the tune-up of the car. I'm trying to, be a good driver. I'm trying to pay the bills. And so for me, and I was out of line to a certain degree for going up. I was just trying to rub it in a little bit because he said something about the track, talking percentages, which is crazy to talk about. But hey, there's spray percentages and this and that and the other, and he just made a good run, so I just kind of rubbed it in, and and rightfully so. He fired back and said something, but then he got off track and started talking about a bunch of other stuff that was irrelevant, and that's where I got ticked off, and we were going back and forth there. But it's all good, man. I don't try to be controversial or say things out of line, but I get a little heated once in a while, and so things come out. We're involved with sports. We're not at a desk, like doing a job. It's high stakes, it's high emotion, high drama. And hey, he said what he had to say. I said what I had to say. But yeah, it's we're off. I'm on to bigger and better things now.
No, that's good to know. Listen, it was entertainment for a few weeks, and I always like to think if he's yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying that was. I got so many calls, and people talking about that. So I think really it was a good thing. I don't know how he felt, but like I said, I didn't appreciate him taking personal shots at me and talking about crew chiefs and staging. I'm like, man, that's the, I don't like, what the hell does that have to do with the racetrack? So that part of it I didn't appreciate and enjoy, but you know what? People are wired different. So, like I said, I don't have any thoughts about it. That's a good team there. I'm good friends with Del Worsham, his crew chief. And, hey, those guys, that's a good car, man. They put down a 92 against us in Seattle. And I had nothing to say, man. We just went back to the pit, did our own thing. And, here we are getting ready to go into Brainerd. But yeah, I do like outspokenness, and I'll continue to be that way. But like I said, I'm not taking personal shots and getting off course and, and trying to talk about other things. That's people with issues usually say stuff like that, but it's all good.
Well, that is good. Well, you are an Oakland Raiders fan, so, that there's a little swagger that comes.
Exactly. That's right.
There's a swagger that comes. All right, let me ask you about, the team and that, Glenn Huzzer, Nick Casertano. Nick, I know Nick a little bit, and he seems like a really sharp guy, and he's worked with some very sharp people. And from what I understand, and I want you to elaborate on this, is, the chemistry, the combination, maybe one guy could be super great and super smart, but it's just not working out for whatever reason. And then two guys they're maybe a little different. They come at it differently, but they work well together. And that's the puzzle that you guys have to put together that nobody really understands. And maybe you guys don't even understand. And sometimes it's good luck that it all works out. So how's it working out with these guys? It seems like it's working pretty well and moving forward in terms of progress.
It's coming together, Joe, and I'm glad you brought them up, because those are two guys that I brought together on the team. They're friends away from the track, so I was fortunate enough to get Glenn back another year. He was with me the previous year when Aaron was here, and then he brought on Nick, who's been nothing but a breath of fresh air to me. He knows the car front to back. But I got to say, if you were to look at my operation and say, Cruz, why the struggles? Why that, we're going on, 2 or 3 or 4 years now, not quite the performance that I would like. Well, I tried being a driver again and just being an owner, and I tried a guy, that did an okay job for me, but it just wasn't working. I was out of the crew chief business for about a year, and then I started getting back involved again in 2018, and then I made a change. Because it wasn't working. I was going through parts. I was blowing cars up. Basically it was either change or die. And budget-wise, that's what a lot of people don't understand. They say, Cruz, he's hard on crew chiefs. No, actually, crew chiefs are hard on me. If people were paying attention, we blew up 4 cars at the beginning of 2018, and, at about 100,000 a lick. Do the math. So it was a hard thing to swallow, and we got through the year, and I decided, hey, I'm going to go back to doing it my way. I'm going to bring in 2 guys, like you mentioned, Nick and Glenn, that are going to be they're going to be out there working with the car and making sure it goes together properly, make sure it's maintained properly, more importantly. And it's actually been a breath of fresh air. It's coming together nicely, but it does take time, Joe. I'd like to, snap my fingers and all that. But you know what? I would say that we're better now than we've been all year. The car's running good. It's running nice, easy. It runs 60-foot times, and runs great to the 8. We just got to run better from the 8 to the finish line, and I think we've got a good shot at it.
My experience just watching is that it takes about a year longer than everybody hopes it will. Like whatever it is, I hope it takes 6 months. Exactly, it's going to take a year and a half is what it's going to take. It just it always takes longer than you want it to.
You're exactly right, and no matter what people say from the outside, it looks easy. Oh man, you just got to tune it and do this and that. No, it's very, very complex. That's why to this day I still look at Robert Height, and Tobler and all these guys those guys are in the finals and the semis every single race, and that I admire that. That's hard to do, but these guys are really good at what they do, and we aspire to be like them, and I think we're close. Like I said, if you look at Seattle, other than we spun the tires first round, we dropped a cylinder on Q3, but that car went 93, 94 at 320 plus, and we were giving up 8 to 10 mile an hour at half track. So we feel like if we can shore that area up of the track, we're right there. In fact, maybe even above some of these guys. So, it's the needle's pointing up for us. The Snap-on Dodge. I love the Dodge bodies, by the way.
Yes.
We're going into our first full year with the Dodge guys, and the Dodge people. They're great to work with, fun to be around. They have great cars. I love my Dodge Durango. And so, like I said, Joe, I couldn't set it better myself. It does take a year longer than what you want, but we have the rest of the year to look forward to. Hey, if we make the countdown, great. It's going to be painful if we don't, but we have Indy. We have all these races in the countdown. They're there to win. They're for the taking. So it's not the end. It's just the beginning. So, and I just want all the fans to stay tuned. It's going to be whether we're in it or not, it's going to be a great run. And maybe we can knock some of the guys off and mix things up a little bit.
Right, be a spoiler. The spoiler role is perfect for a Raider fan. All right, on the topic that has been bouncing around, your opinion is very valuable to me and people out there. You're one of the veterans. You're very well respected. The 1320 thing. It popped back up. Same race, by the way, Epping. Popped back up. And real. It's real. There's discussion. There's a survey that went out. Would you rather see 1,000 foot at 330 or 1320 at 300, you know, the NHRA survey that everybody got out there. I'm sure you maybe saw it or heard about it at very least. What does a guy like Cruz Pedregon think about all this? You know, you've been doing this a long time. You came up old school. Your dad, your brothers, racing 1320, but of course you know very well why we switched to 1,000 foot. You're in the car, the whole deal. Give me your thoughts.
Well, you just said it all. My dad raced, my brothers raced, I raced all these years, quarter mile. We went to the 1,000 foot. I think there's a lot of opinions. This is a heated, loaded question, but I'll answer it as short and sweet as I can, Joe. I'm for what's the best in the best interest of the sport. If that's going to some events, not all the events can handle quarter mile, but I'm for, hey, I want to race in front of a big crowd, Joe. I want to race in front of people that really look at what we do as daredevilish. These cars are dangerous, Joe, and the thought that these cars, we can just keep shorten the track up to make them so people's kids can drive them or people's family can drive them and people's loved ones. Hey, forget all that. This is a dangerous freaking sport. And I've gone to funerals, Joe, and it's not pretty. So my dad had a lot of friends that he lost. These are race cars. Let's not forget that these are race cars and they go fast. So I feel like we need to go back to the daredevil things. They're dangerous, man. Hell yeah, they're dangerous. You don't have to. If we go back to quarter mile, the guys that are scared either need to get the hell out of the seat or they need to shut it off when they feel comfortable. But hey, I'm a gamer, man. You know, you come at me and we're gonna have a fight. So if I'm in a race with, let's say, John Force or with whoever, and I see that finish line and it's a quarter mile, hey, I'm gonna run that thing probably to 13 or 14, 1,500 feet because you know what? I want to win. And so for me, Joe, quarter mile, if it fits the venue, if it fits the fan base, I want to race in front of big crowds. I want to be their daredevil. When I get out of the car, people go, man, see what that guy did? You know, and so that's where I'm at with that. The fact that this thing has gotten to where everybody's up in arms about 1,000 foot, quarter mile, hey, forget about it, man. It's dangerous, dude. Get over it.
Got it. No, I got it. I understand where you're coming from, and you're doing this for a reason. Let me say this. I'm a big fan of the World of Outlaws. You know what? Those cars are flipping dangerous. They are dangerous cars, sprint cars, USAC. I'm a fan of the guys that go up against the wall at 150 miles an hour, and if you hit that wall, you might die. I like that. Do I like guys that run around the bottom and slow poke around? Hell no, man. So, like I said, I'm a guy that likes to push the envelope. It's a dangerous sport. When I get in my car, I have a daughter that's 8 years old. There isn't a run I make I don't think about my daughter, and I may not come back again. And you know what? I'm willing to take that risk because that's what I signed up for. So, hey, fans, quarter mile when it fits the venue, if we have the proper runoff, if the cars are, you know, can survive the engine, hey, we'll let the experts figure that out. The engines will be fine. We'll make it to where it'll work. But the quarter mile for when it fits, I will go down with the ship if that's what it takes. My tombstone, I wanted to say this guy raced quarter mile. That's heavy. That's intense, Cruz.
Well, it is because this is an intense sport. How the hell we got to pussyfooting around and talking about shorten this is what I got to say. It gets me fired up. I'm really, truly fired up right now, and I apologize if I'm coming off like a jerk, but you know what? This cuts, a little bit. And hey, I've had a brother that raced. Did I think about his health? You got it. He doesn't race anymore. I had two brothers that race. But you know what? If my daughter, let me say this, if God willing, I'm able to be an owner for many more years and my daughter wants to drive, which she's not interested, but if she ever did, she's going to race quarter mile or whatever the heck the venue is. I'm not going to try to manipulate things to make it safe for her. She knows what she's signing up for. It's a danger. You can get burned in these cars. You can get hurt in these cars. You know what? That's why people like it. That's why I like it. If they put training wheels on these cars, I'm not interested. Hell, I already think now we should have slalom. We should make these cars drive around cones at the wide open throttle. We'll see who can drive. You'd have third of these guys running shit over. So for me, I'm for challenges. I'm for making it better, making it more difficult. Let's make the drivers daredevils again. Remember Evel Knievel?
Yes.
People liked that guy, didn't they?
Loved him.
Guy was a friggin' daredevil, man. He did stuff that not any joker can do. So I like that. The reason why I like the Raiders, I like that attitude. I like the patch over the eye, the bad boys, the black shirt, the black hat guy. I like that. And I like it in sports. I like the guys that's outspoken. I don't want some wussy dude just telling all the shit that we already know. Forget all that, man. Talk some smack.
Well, I know that there's a lot of fans that love hearing you say that, especially about, character and, bringing it regardless of the length of the track. But I understand what you're saying about the track as well. It's interesting to see. And, obviously you and I are not in charge of this. The powers that be within the NHRA will make the decision as best as they can with the data that they have. And we'll see where they go. But I appreciate you laying it out the way you have.
Joe, let me say one last thing. I don't know if we have enough time. I can promise you this. If we ever go to 8th Mile Racing, you've seen the last of me. I will not race 8th Mile. Not that there's anything wrong with 8th Mile. I love the 8th Mile racers out there, the no prep guys. I'm just saying, for me and my career in my particular race car, my career, that doesn't appeal to me. Longer appeals to me. Now, I've said this whole time, as long as the venue is the proper shutdown, there's a few out there. I'm not going to get into which tracks.
Sure, of course.
There are venues that can handle it. As long as all that's up, and we'll make our motors survive. Everybody says, what about the faith? Forget the motor. You be quiet and let the experts do that, right? Everybody all of a sudden wants to be motor experts. And what about, these guys are really good at tune these motors, and I know what to do to mine. Even if they left them alone, I would know exactly what to do to my engine to make it survive to the quarter mile. And matter of fact, like I said, you don't have to run a quarter mile. Hey, shut it off at 1,100 foot. If it makes you feel better. You don't have to run quarter mile. Shut it off early. Let me win.
There you go. Wow, Cruz. Listen, I'm glad I asked you. I'm glad I asked you because, first of all, the passion comes right out, and I understand what you're saying. And two, this is a real debate that we're having. This is not a rumor. This is real now. NHRA is sending out surveys, and people are discussing it. And so we need to hear from the people who are, like you said, the experts, right? You're the guy who gets in the car. You're the guy who tunes the engine.
I'm the guy in the seat. Yeah, I'm the guy that I have lost some parachutes, and let me tell you, it does not feel good to go whistling through there in a 2,600-pound funny car without parachutes and getting ready to eat a bunch of sand. But you know what? People pay good money to watch us be daredevils and be the badasses, and that's what I want to be.
Well, there you go. All right, speaking of badasses, now I got to ask you about your Raiders. Hard Knocks. You're getting a good look. You're getting a good look now at Grudy. You're getting a good look at everybody inside your organization. They're moving to Vegas eventually. I don't think that, matters for you because you don't live in Oakland anyway. It's like a national fan base anyway. So what do you think of what you're seeing so far?
I like it. Gruden is what I thought he was. He's a disciplinarian. He's a no-nonsense guy. This is his second go around. Hey, I've defended this guy. Last year when he traded some players and he was getting so much heat by the media, I was defending him, and I'm glad I did because you know what? He didn't want to just jump in there and take what they had. He's going to change that team to fit his style, and I think he's on his way to doing that. We have a certain receiver now that's in the headlines about some different things, but you know what? If you look at the old Raiders, I'm talking about Antonio Brown, but if you look at the old school Raiders, man, they were full of guys that were in the headlines and full of, not exactly buttoned up guys. And that's what the Raiders are about. If you can play, you can make a difference. This is where you're going to be. And so I'm glad the owner is still the chip off the old block. He still has his dad, Mr. Al Davis, still has his methodology, his style. Just win, baby. Yeah, we got a few guys that don't toe the line. So what? As long as you perform, and that's what's to be seen. We'll see on the field, but I like it. I love that Hard Knocks is there and showing us the inside the locker room, so to speak.
Great show. You know, Brian Loans and I have conversations a lot about what we need in sport of drag racing. And we keep saying, we need a Hard Knocks show, right? Like, we need a Hard Knocks show for NHRA drag racing, like when you guys are heading out to the Arizona test, that kind of thing. I know it will be hard and, more importantly, expensive, but boy, would that be cool.
As long as it's not a bunch of guys that are playing up to the camera and trying to act tough by saying, oh, this is badass or that is badass. That is the most overused, lame cliche ever, by the way. I might as well throw that in there while I'm at it. But, yeah, as long as we have guys keeping it real, Joe, and like they do, and, they're not really watching the camera, as long as they can keep it real and talk exactly the way they talk when there's no camera there, I'm all for it. But if you get a bunch of guys that are just going to be happy, oh, golly, how you doing, buddy? This badass. If you get a bunch of that, forget about it. People will be puking like me.
Cruz, you're fired up today, man. I'm so glad I was looking at the points thinking, who is the most interesting story right now? And you know what? I focused in on your name. Hey, one more thought. John Force, your old rival, 150 wins. You beat him in 92. You guys are connected. He went up into the booth. He gave Tony a hug. They broke down, that kind of deal. Same as the 1320, Cruz. Give me your perspective on what we have just witnessed with this milestone for John.
Absolutely amazing. Incredible driver. I say this. He had one of the best crew chiefs ever, but if I'm speaking of Austin Coyle, I was against Austin Coyle in their many, many years in the 90s. I was on the receiving end of a lot of them ass whoopings. But let me say this. Had there been a lesser driver in that car than John Force, that car doesn't win as many championships, even with the great Austin Coyle. So all these guys that talking about deep staging and how it's so terrible, baloney. Race John Force in the 90s, Joker, and he'll be handing your ass too. So I give him credit. I love the guy. I've always said this about John. He's the Dale Earnhardt of our sport. I'm happy and lucky that I was able to race him as many times as I have. And I know that guy has passion that, like, I think I have passion. That dude might top me in passion, and that is admirable. So I have nothing but admiration for John. I never run stack shit and try to minimize his driving because, you know what? That guy's a warrior. You know what? I would never want to get in a street fight with John Force. You know why? Like his staging, he takes it serious. That guy will pick up whatever's near him and bust you over the skull with it. You know why? Because he wants to win. So that's why I love John Force, and that's why I love guys that keep it real. Hey, some of these guys that want a shallow stage, all they're doing is kissing their crew chief's asses, kissing them and, kissing his crotch. John Force says, oh, yeah, deep stage? Deep stage this. This guy's trying to take food away from my kids. I'm going to show you deep staging. So anyway, love them, keep staging deep Force, and love you to death, brother.
Cruz, thank you for coming on WFO Radio Podcast. Really appreciate it. Putting it all out there, and that's exactly what we want on the show. Good luck this weekend. Obviously, good luck in Indy. And, keep swinging. You never know when you're going to get one. And even if it doesn't work out, you'll play a great spoiler in the countdown because you guys are doing, you're directionally correct, to coin a phrase. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate the time, Joe. You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Cruz. Cruz Pedregon with us here on WFO Radio. And fired up. Love it. Fired up, Cruz. Good interview. Yes, bringing it. 110, baby. And he put it all out there for you. He wants to go to 1320. He wants to go fast. He wants to bring back that aspect of like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? Now, I don't know that I necessarily agree, but I'm not in one of the cars. Cruz wants to do it. And I respect that he laid it all out there for us. And he likes the idea of real, like be real. Tell us how it is. Give it to us as it is. Don't cover it up. Gotta love that too. And whether you agree with Cruz or disagree with Cruz or whatever you think about Cruz, I like the fact that he lets us all have it here on WFO Radio. Cruz Pedregon Unleashed on WFO Radio. And it is not impossible for him to make the countdown. Catch a couple breaks, go a couple of rounds here in Brainerd, like Alan Reinhart said. Catch a couple breaks, You don't want to wish any ill will on anybody because Tim Wilkerson and Richard Hartman are great people and we love them. They're battling for that 10th spot. It's Wilk versus Tim. Is Sean Langdon out of the danger zone? Maybe. Yes, I would say so. That car's running really well right now, and Sean is a good driver, and it would take a total catastrophe-style collapse for them to fall out of the top 10. I don't see that happening. I see it's Tim or it's Wilk, and it's probably Tim. But if Cruz Pedregon could pull out an amazing feat in Indy and get a little break, this is why the countdown exists. Without the countdown, we're not talking about this. We're talking about just the top of the points and how long before Robert Hite clinches. This is why the countdown exists, to bring Cruz Pedregon back into the fray. Can you do something spectacular, Cruz? This is your chance, and we'll see how it all goes down. But I appreciate Cruz coming on the show and laying it all out just like that. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun battle this weekend. Thanks to Cruz Pedregon for coming on the show. The Cruiser. And you know, when he picks his song, half the time he picks The Autumn Wind, The Raiders, which I've been watching Hard Knocks, and it is great. It is great. It's, if you want to know what's going on inside a training camp and your favorite team or the NFL in general, you got to watch it. But don't be watching it when you should be listening to WFO, though. That's all I ask, because, you know, what's the point of that? Coming up next, he is NHRA's medical director, Dr. Phil Surface. And Dr. Phil and I have been having conversations back and forth for a while this season. He's a WFO listener. He listens to the show on a weekly basis. And he's probably listening to this right now. What'd you think, Dr. Phil? I told you this is going to be a well-listened to show, but we're going to bring it back to earth now because Dr. Phil Surface is going to get into his whole point about safety. I'm going to talk about his responsibilities in his career and his life, and it's going to be very interesting. And I'm even going to try to extract a little health information knowledge for all of us. But right now, I want to tell you about Frank Hawley and the Dragster Adventure, Frank Hawley's drag racing school. Here's the deal. This sport is hard to get into. It takes a lot of want to go out and want to go fast and buy a dragster and go to the track or beg, borrow, steal so you can get your license. And Frank Hawley has taken all that and made it easy. It's as simple as that. Do you have the speed bug? Has it bitten you? Do you want to go fast? Do you want to feel acceleration? Do you want to understand why guys like Cruz Pedregon are so passionate about what they do? You do not have to go 330 miles per hour to understand. You have to accelerate 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and go 130 in the quarter mile in a dragster chassis. That will tell you all you need to know. 866-480-7223. Frank Hawley has the answer. It's the Dragster Adventure. They go all across the country to various different tracks. They bring the program there. It's coming near you. It makes an unbelievable holiday gift. It's fantastic. Courses start at $399, which is not a lot of money, considering you just show up and they handle everything else. The safety gears, the cars, the instruction. You make multiple runs, a half-track and 2 full-track passes. You're doing burnouts, you're staging, you're reacting, you're maybe even racing. It is an awesome experience. Everybody that I have spoken with, the WFO radio listeners who have gone on the Dragster Adventure, have been very satisfied. 866-480-7223. Tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. But also, maybe you are a bracket racer and you want to get your super gas license. Or maybe you're a super gas racer and you want to get your super comp license. Maybe you want to learn how to drive a top alcohol funny car. All of those things are available at Frank Hawley's drag racing school. Think about Austin Prock and Jordan Vandegrift. Where did they go? They went to Frank Hawley's drag racing school. So this place, whether you just want a little taste, the Dragster Adventure, you're a WFO radio listener, you say, yeah, I'll do that. Or maybe you're a very serious racer and you want to get better. Go to Frank Hawley. Simple as that. 866-480-7223, frankhawley.com. Tell them you heard about it on WFO. When we come back, it's going to be Dr. Phil, NHRA's Dr. Phil.
It ain't just wide open, it's WFO.
Right now, though, I want to tell you about Hangstafers metalworking lubricants. The folks at Hangstafers on board with big racers like Antron Brown and Lucas Oil Series or Sportsman Racers in the Racing RV's Top Dragster category. And their number one goal at Hangstafers is to increase the productivity in the shop. Metalworking lubricants, coolants, all kinds of stuff. You got to go to the website and check them out. And so go to hankstafirst.com to find out more information. Alan Reinhart always says, like, the one thing that DSR and JFR have in common is Hankstafirst metalworking lubricants. We're happy to have them on board, happy to have them helping our WFO radio listeners in their shop. Hankstafirst metalworking lubricants, trying to make you a little more efficient in the shop.
WFO Radio is brought to you in part by Extreme Velocity 3 Drag Racing. Download for your mobile device. Win your way on the show. WFO.
Hey, this is Joe Castello, and we'll be back to the show in a second. But first, I want to tell you about CompetitionPlus.com. There's a reason CompetitionPlus.com is the leader among drag racing electronic magazines. Their trained staff is always on alert and always asking the tough questions. The end result is hard-hitting drag racing journalism with up-to-the-minute reporting. For over a decade, CompetitionPlus.com has been a pioneer as drag racing's go-to source for the latest in news, race coverage, and high-quality photography. Their trained staff thrives on getting the inside stories, and their columnists study their topics before they hit their first keystroke. When it comes to covering the races, they leave you feeling as if you've actually been to the race. CompetitionPlus.com is an honest-to-goodness, free drag racing magazine published by the most passionate of drag racing fans, who just happen to be journalists. Don't wonder what's going on in the drag racing world. Be in the know daily. Log on to CompetitionPlus.com.
Hey, what's up, WFO Universe? It's Kathy Fisher. Join me along with Joe Castello every Sunday morning on Motor Trend for Performance TV. That's 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.
Now, back to WFO Radio NHRA Nitro.
NHRA Nitro podcast, WFO Radio, sponsored by Magic Dry, US.com. Scott Palmer, speaking of racers that are in a fight for 10th. I talked to Scott, though, and he says, I'm not into it. I'm not thinking about that. I want to win a race this year. We're trying to win a race this year. That is their goal, and I admire and respect that. The folks at Magic Dry did such a great job at the Magic Dry Northwest Nationals, let me tell you. Giving out samples and whatnot, and I learned a lot about Magic Dry, even though I read the spot here every week. One of the things is that it's way lighter, so traveling with it. Like if you are putting your Speedy Dry in your trailer and it's very heavy, it doesn't have to be. Magic Dry, since it's made out of coconut, is much lighter, and so it's easier over the road. Not to mention it absorbs 560% of its weight in liquid, and it handles any viscosity. Those things, and the fact that they have these spill kits that you can call and order, 5-gallon, 10-gallon, 20-gallon, 50 gallons, whatever it is, they can make it. It makes the whole procedure easy. Like the 20-gallon spill kit. It's got 20 15 by 19 pads. It's got 3 by 8 sorbent socks. It's got 2 12 by 18 pillows. It's got all kinds of gloves. It's got everything you could possibly need, plus Magic Dry to clean your spills. Do you have a shop? Do you work in a factory? Where do you work? Whether it be your house or whether it be your business. MagicDryUS.com. Check them out. Give them a call. 833-221-2257. That is MagicDryUS.com. And Scott Palmer is fighting for that 10th spot. They keep him on the track. Why don't you keep them on track? The official organic absorbent of the National Hot Rod Association. I'm super excited about our next guest. Joining us now, he is the medical director at the National Hot Rod Association, but more importantly, someone that I have come to know and greatly appreciate whenever I see him at the racetrack. He is Dr. Phillip Surface, who helps out at the National Hot Rod Association Mellow Yellow Series. Dr. Phil, welcome to WFO. First time. How are you?
I'm doing great, Joe. How are you?
I am great. I am glad that we are able to come through on a plan that we hatched out in Chicago a couple of months back and have you on the podcast finally.
Oh, yes, me too. I'm very appreciative of you having me on the podcast. I listen to it all the time. You do a great job, and I look forward to being on your show for some time. So I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be talking with you.
Well, it's interesting because we have this group of, it's like a circus, right? We all travel to these different locations, and the more time you spend, the more you get to know people. Initially, it's in strictly working capacity, but then as time goes by, you get to know people and what they are all about and what they do and what they like. And we've had some great conversations this year about things that have nothing to do with racing, but then it occurs like we got to talk racing, because you are, I don't want to say you have the most important job out there at the racetrack, but certainly it's vital to the safety of our drivers. And I'm glad you're willing to come on the show to talk about it. But I guess first and foremost, we got to get to know you a little bit. So let me ask you this, drag racing, when did you first become aware, knowledgeable, interested? Was it prior to becoming a doctor?
Yes. And I guess, I wouldn't presume necessarily that I'm that knowledgeable, maybe, Joe, but I started in drag racing like a lot of us with my father and family at 8th Mile drag strips around the southeastern part of the United States. Started off racing motorcycles myself, but my dad was always a drag racer and a hot rodder, an engine builder, fabricator. He owns a construction company, and then during the off season for him, he spends time building engines primarily for drag racers and so forth. So I've been around drag racing my whole life, and it's a great family sport, and I'm just honored to be involved in it at the level that I am now. It's something I take a lot of pride in.
He must be so proud of you for going into legitimate business, right? Going to medical school, becoming a doctor, and able to participate in a sport from that position.
Yeah, I think so. It's a really strange story. When I was in high school, I went to vocational school to learn how to be a machinist, and I became a machinist, and I also took college prep courses, which at that time, where I went to school in southern West Virginia, you either had to choose one or the other, and I chose to do both college prep courses and became a machinist so I could help work on racing engines and race cars and so forth. And I followed the path of going to medical school, and interestingly was able to continue my racing passion for cars all the way through medical school and residency training and so forth. Worked on a lot of nurses' cars and doctors' cars and so forth when I was in medical school and residency, and supplemented my income as a mechanic around the hospital. So it was quite interesting.
Well, it is very interesting, and I wonder about, a calling, right? The medical field, to me, of course, there are people who get into various things for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. But I think if you're going to be good at a profession like that, you have to really want to be called to help other people, to want to, whether it be a child who's got a problem with his knee or otherwise, to want to get into the mix on something like that. And it's not that different than the people who want to go out and, get up at 4 a.m. to bring their race car to the racetrack. You've got to be a very driven and determined person to want to enter each of those fields.
Oh yeah, that's correct. And I oftentimes make analogies between drag racing and what I do. And as an orthopedic surgeon, it's an individual thing. I mean, when I'm in the operating room, it's primarily up to me to make things happen, but I depend on an entire team of people, for which I'm grateful that they're around, because I couldn't function. I couldn't do my job without this incredible team of supporting folks. And that's very similar to drag racing. It's up to the driver to perform, but the driver can't do anything without a very good quality team around him. So there's quite a bit of analogies.
Very, very interesting stuff. And today that we have gotten you on the show, it is right after a hard day of work where I believe you have done, was it 8 different surgeries?
Yes. I've done 8 surgeries today. couple of hip surgeries, couple knee surgeries, some hand surgery and ankle surgery, just a variety of things today. So, yeah, I've been quite busy today.
Amazing, and forgive me for marveling at it, but just, the concentration and be able to focus in the moment, more things that are analogous to, drag racing success, in that you can finish something so intense like that, take a break, and then dive back into it with another patient. Like, that is amazing to me.
Yeah, it's like going rounds. Pretty intense for a while. Chill out for a minute, check everything out, make sure you're headed the right direction, got everything lined up, and your team's ready to go, and then back to the starting line.
So cool. So let's talk a little bit about the Mellow Yellow series and some of your responsibilities out there. In a perfect world, you are not needed. That's what we all hope for, right? You're out there just to to be there just in case we need your expertise. But every now and again, that is not the case. And you have been called into action, and small things happening in the pit area, a crew member, cuts, different stuff. Things happen. Your advice is called upon. But then, of course, there are the big moments that we never hope ever happen.
Yeah, that's correct. My role is very interesting. I mean, my primary responsibility, of course, on race weekends is the safety of multiple individuals. I'm involved with the safety of the drivers, of course, and on-track things that go on, but also the crew members on the teams, the NHRA employees, and ultimately the fans and the track operator employees. So it's quite a responsibility on race weekends. I have a lot of other things that go on that I'm involved with. I'm able to now with the promotion that I've received and some of the new folks that are involved in the administration of the NHRA, I'm able to work some with the tech department, competition department. So I have a wide variety of roles, and I really enjoy it. It's of course, the thing that garners the most attention is on-track incidents that we don't ever want to happen. And but if they do, we want to learn from them, and we want to try to make the sport safer going forward. But I'm really excited about the new NHRA, as I call it, the new administration. I think Mr. Glenn Cromwell has done a tremendous job of assembling a cast of people to make this thing move forward, and I've really been fortunate to establish a relationship with Josh Peterson and Vice President of Racing Operations, and Bob Lang, the Senior Director for Safety and Emergency Services. Those guys are tremendous. They do an outstanding job. Very, very knowledgeable, and I've learned so much from those people. And Jeff Parker, the supervisor of the safety safari, Ned Walliser, Tim White. I've been able to work with those guys very closely, and I've learned a lot from them. And I'm very excited with how things are going, and I'm excited that they've offered me this promotion to medical director.
Oh, I think it is fantastic, and there's just a confidence when you're out there, and I certainly appreciate it. I do wonder and I'm sure there are things that you cannot share, but the combination of man and vehicle going down the racetrack as quick and as fast as is possible, obviously that is going to create, challenges for the body, for the human body, for the human mind, all of these things. Of course, you mentioned incidents, contact with the wall. Of course, the safety safari, we know, since the beginning have been focused and dedicated to safety to minimize as much as is possible. Occasionally things happen, and then the two, the data points cross, right? That's when you have to get involved, but they have to get involved first. But you're there, you're on the scene, and to be able to assemble that team and get everybody on the same page and working together in critical moments, that's what gives the drivers the confidence to go out and do what they did. I just talked to Cruz Pedregon, and he says he wants to be involved in the sport because it's dangerous. To me, the only reason he feels that way is because he knows you guys are there.
Yeah, well, the physics of drag racing are wild. I mean, what the cars and the drivers are doing in multiple classes, not just the fuel cars, but all the way down into several of the sportsman cars. The physics involved are amazing, and when that physics goes wrong, there's a lot of potential there for injury. But the cars are very safe, and I think the tracks are very safe. I think clearly the NHRA through the years has done a tremendous job in making the sport as safe as it is, and we are always striving to make it even safer, and we're striving to learn at all points, and any opportunity we can, we want to try to learn to make this sport safer. But yeah, you're right. It's an amazing feat that these guys do, and it still takes a good bit of bravery, but I think it's pretty safe. I think there's opportunities for us to improve, just like with any aspect of life. But I think overall it's a very safe sport, especially considering what I call the physics that are involved. I mean, hurdling a top fuel car down a racetrack and 330 miles an hour and 1,000 feet, and then getting it stopped again, and making that all happen without any incident is an amazing feat. And it's exciting. But hey, we're wanting to learn all the time. We want to try to make this as safe as possible for the participants and the crew members, spectators, and all the workers involved. We certainly don't want anybody ever hurt.
That is so true, and we always think about the drivers right there on the track, but there's dangerous stuff happening in the pit areas, in the staging lanes, as we found out, recently in Seattle. I know John Force, Brittany Force had a crew member have an incident, and just things happen, right? Yeah. You're around cars, you're playing with cars, you're in your own driveway. You mentioned being a part-time mechanic, helping out nurses and such, busting your knuckles, right? Like, you can get hurt in many different ways working with race cars or cars in general.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. And some of the places I'm always trackside during the professional categories and some of the sportsman categories, and you'll find me positioned in places that may seem strange, but I'll oftentimes spend a lot of time near the starting line, particularly in certain tracks. There's debris and so forth that will get up into the burnout box and so forth, and I try to keep an eye on that, and try to be around in areas where there's a lot of traffic. I mean, there has to be a lot of crew members around. There has to be a lot of media folks around, and sponsors and so forth. And those folks need some proximity to the race car, but we try to make that proximity safe, and yet allow them to do their jobs. And so, yeah, there's a lot to keep your eye on, and there's little accidents and things that occur while you're working on the cars. And of course, at the national events that I attend, I do a whole lot of family practice stuff. Folks are on the road, they're away from their homes and families, and there's medical things that come up, blood pressure issues and just a whole variety of things that the folks out there will call on me to help them with, and I'm happy to do that. It's I consider it, another medical practice that I have with a whole lot of patients that just happen to be involved in motorsports and in the NHRA specifically. So it's a lot of fun. It's a wide variety of things, but I enjoy it. It's like family. These folks are like family, and I love them all, and I'd do anything for any of them at any time, and I think they all know that. So it's pretty cool.
I agree that they know that, and it is interesting to hear you describe it that way, because I can't figure out another way to describe it. We talk about the traveling circus and, we're speed carnies and all of that. But in the end, we're the same group of people. We show up to the same, place each week. We all get to know each other. Racers or otherwise, might be a divisional racer that only comes out every once in a while, but you see them 2 or 3 times over a couple of years, and you get to know them and their family and all. And for you as the doc, right? People coming to you, whatever it may be. We know Old Town America, right? The doc was in many ways like a leader in the community because he had specialized knowledge. You think about Field of Dreams, right? The doc. That's you for drag racing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And, and I appreciate that people respect me, and they seem to, and I get along with most folks out on the circuit, and I've got a good working relationship with them. I think a lot of it helps that most of the folks out there by now know that I've been around a long time. They know that I've worked on race cars at the professional level for about 14 seasons. I spent time as a mechanic on pro stock teams in the NHRA full time, and I think most people know that. So they know that I have an interest in it, and they know that I understand sort of what they're going through, and they also know that I know a little bit about the racing, and that I have a lot, and I'm licensed in NHRA as a driver and have driven, and so I think that helps to build up a rapport and a trust and understanding, and I also think that when they interact with me, they know that I have their interest at heart. I want them to be safe, but also I want them to be able to compete. I don't feel like I'm in the business to keep people out of the seat. I'm in the business to keep people in the seat, and that's the same way as an orthopedic surgeon. My primary emphasis is sports medicine, and I want to get people in the game and keep them in the game. So if someone does get hurt, I want to make certain that everyone else involved, other competitors and so forth, are not affected by a person's injury or illness. But at the same time, I want, if at all possible, to keep the driver or the crew member in the game. So I think people know that, and I think that they appreciate it. And so it's an honor for me to be in the position that I'm in. I never thought, growing up racing, old clunker cars on 8-mile tracks in the middle of West Virginia, and Tennessee, and so forth, that I would ever end up in the position that I'm in. I never dreamed that I'd ever get to work on pro stock teams, but I've been able to do all that, and I was even able to work on a pro stock team last season for one race, and it brought back some memories.
Tell us the teams you worked on, because I don't know that everybody knows that. Give us a little breakdown of your tenure, 14 years. I'm sure you saw a lot.
Yeah, I did. I had done some SECA sports car racing while I was in residency, and I'd raced all over the country, and was fortunate enough to race some other owners' equipment, because I tore up a lot of cars. But I was doing that while I was in training, and a guy named Mark Osborne that used to race pro stock.
Yes.
He at that time was sponsored by, I think, Mama Rosa's Pizza, maybe Pile Royal or whatever. He needed some help, and I started helping him, and that eventually blossomed into a full-time position. And I worked with him for probably 6 or 7 seasons in pro stock with Tim Freeman was on the crew most of those years. He's, of course, on the KB team now, one of their assistant crew chiefs. And I worked with Osborne for many seasons, and then I went to pro stock truck with Osborne and Freeman when they were sponsored by Castello Super Clean, and I did that for a couple seasons. And then I worked for Larry Kopp in pro stock truck. Then I went back to pro stock car and worked for Steve Schmidt for several seasons. Worked on Brad Jeter's team for a while. And during that period is when I transitioned into working some as an official, as a physician at the racetrack. My kids were at the age where I needed to spend more time at home, so I quit going to, full season and just went to 5 or 6 races a year, which is now turned back into, basically I go to almost all the races. So I've, had a pretty broad experience in pro stock. I had several opportunities to work in Top Fuel. I just never took the opportunity, and had a couple options to drive and never took those opportunities. But hey, it's been great. It's been a good ride, and I've really enjoyed it. Man, I've met a lot of nice, interesting people. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, I think it is tremendous that you have a racing and crew member background, because you understand exactly what they go through, sleep deprivation, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
You've lived the life.
Right. Yeah. Last season, I worked on Roger Bogdan's car when he rented off of KB Racing for Houston last year. And I was talking to Greg Anderson and Jason Line, and I've mentioned to him for many years how I miss working on the cars. And last season, early on in the season, Greg approached me and said, "Hey, I think we're going to have this car running in Houston. We might need you to help." And I said, "Hey, man, I'd be great." It happened to be a race that I was not going to be working as the NHRA physician. And so I took him up on it, and it worried Greg to death, because I think he thought I was going to pass out or croak or something. He kept asking me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And, which I don't know. He seemed pretty worried about it, but hey, I was, it all came back to me. And, of course they had to help me with a few things that I haven't seen and, haven't been around in a while, but it was a lot of fun. And, working with Roger was a blast. And we even went around, and it was fun. So, but boy, I'll tell you what, it brings back memories, and I miss those days of work, of wrenching. That stuff. Well, it's really hard work, but it's a lot of fun.
Let me ask you something. Okay, well, first of all, what aspect of the car do you work on? There's the back half guy. What's your specialty?
Well, I worked this last year with on Brogdon's car. I did the back half, and when I was working in pro stock truck, I eventually worked, from the back half of the car into the bell housing. I eventually got to where I was servicing the clutch, reassembling the clutch in the bell housing, and machining the clutches down, and helping the crew chief with that kind of stuff. And I did, light mechanical type work, repairs, brakes, changing shocks, rear ends, and transmissions, and so forth. So a little bit of everything. Never made any calls on the car to speak, but got a lot of experience, and was given more and more responsibility as I went along. So.
Now, I know the audience is wondering this question, and I'm wondering this question, and it might be as a basic question with a basic answer, but don't you have to protect your hands as a surgeon? Don't you have to protect your, the ultimate moneymakers in your life, right? You have to have a steady hand. You got to be able to work on people's bodies. You're out there working on race cars, metal parts. In the movies, the surgeon is always worried about his hands. What about you?
Well, yeah, I worry about them, but, and yeah, I need to be careful, and I try to be extremely careful, but hey, as an orthopedic surgeon, I use a lot of power tools in the operating room. So, maybe you could just look at it like, I'm just keeping my skills honed when I'm at the racetrack working on a car, which, it's something that it's always been in the back of my mind. I try to be careful with it, but hey, you got to live your life and enjoy the things that you do outside of medicine. And I have friends that golf and friends that fish and all sorts of other things. And my deal has been racing and mountain climbing for the most part. So there's some risk there to the career, but it's manageable. And I want to live my life. So I've been able to manage so far so good.
Are you familiar with Ernest Hemingway?
Yes.
He says there's only 3 real sports in the world, and they are auto racing, mountain climbing, and bullfighting, because they all involve risk. You've got 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, that's true. I've never had much interest in bullfighting. I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a farm and then learned at a very early age that I didn't want any part of bullfighting. But yeah, I've done a lot of mountain climbing. We just got back from Seattle, and I always enjoy going there because I've been on Rainier a couple times. I've actually summited Rainier, and so it's always cool to go back and see Rainier. I haven't climbed it in several years, but yeah, I've got the mountain climbing, the car racing, and I think Ernest was onto something.
Yeah, that is definitely enough, though. You don't have to mess with the bullfry. It's mean to the bulls anyway. All right, so let's rapid fire. I know you're super busy. I'm going to rapid fire a couple of questions at you. Safety enhancements in drag racing over the years. Is there 1 or 2 that stand above the rest as very significant for improving driver safety? Something that, sits out above the rest. Like, that was a really great idea.
I think the automatic shutoff systems, including the pan pressure monitoring and the handheld device for crew chiefs to shut off the fuel cars, has been a very significant development that has really changed the paradigm. I think that's a big one.
All right. Now we'll turn it to our listeners out there. I always like to try to extract something positive for them in their lives. You're an orthopedic surgeon, like our joints, we're thinking about them as we all get a little bit older. I'm 46. Who knows how old they are? Are there best practices for keeping our joints healthy so that we can continue doing these wonderful things that we love to do as long as is possible?
Yes. Stay lean, stay active, and don't smoke. Those are the things that'll keep your joints going for the long haul.
Simple. Smoking, I never would have considered that.
Yeah, it's very deleterious to the cartilage. So, yeah, it's you don't hear about that one much, but but smoking is definitely bad for your cartilage.
Interesting. I'd never heard that. Thank you for telling me. And stay moving. We hear the Greek, right? He says turn off the TV, go out there and do. Garlitz was on a few weeks ago. He says keep going, keep moving, never stop. And you're backing that up.
Oh yes, yeah. I listened to your interview with Garlitz, and I chuckled because he has it right. I mean, just stay moving, stay active. And don't get stale. And man, he sure hasn't. What a dynamo he is. I talked to him not long ago, and man, he is just as sharp as ever. And I think staying active and staying in the garage and working and all that has been very, very good for him, and as it would anybody.
Final question: more dangerous, going down the racetrack at 330 miles per hour or jumping over a fence into the grandstands?
Well, I think maybe jumping over the fence and going into the grandstands. I know when I see someone jumping over the fence and going into the grandstands, it probably makes me more nervous than when they're going down the racetrack at 330.
Take me to that moment. Take me to that moment. John Force has just won his 150th. It's something that everybody in the sport, whether you love him or you hate him, which nobody hates him, was waiting for to get it out of the way, right? So he never had to say it ever again, so he could just close the book on that deal. He's done it. And now all of a sudden he darts as much as he could dart across the racetrack. And, at that point, people start figuring out John Force is about to try to climb a 6-foot fence. Oh, boy, here we go. Take me to that moment, Dr. Phil. What were you thinking?
Well, at that moment, I was very excited. When he won, I literally, tears ran down my cheeks. He's been a hero of mine forever. And so, you know, I got kind of emotional. I thought it was a really cool moment. John, you know, he mentioned recently in an interview that he had polio. My mother had polio. And I've always looked up to him from that angle, which is a little bit different angle. But I've always really looked up to him. So I was a bit emotional, you know, just teared up a little bit. And then I was excited for Austin. I think he's an awesome young man. And I was standing on the starting line after he won. And my fiance, Leanne, that you've met, you know, kind of elbowed me in the ribs. And she said, Force is going up in the grandstands. And so I thought, you know, this is interesting. And I was worried. I wasn't worried really about him climbing the fence or, you know, scaling up and climbing in there. I was just worried about how he was going to get mobbed. You know, he is a national treasure. He is someone that I think everybody likes this guy. I mean, even if you root against him, I think the fans like him. I think they admire him. I think they admire his work ethic and his background. So he's a national treasure, and I knew that he was going to get mobbed, and he did, you know. And so I wanted to make certain I was there in case anything happened, and just to be around. And so when she told me that he was going up in the stands, I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome. I mean, what a great idea from, you know, on a lot of levels. And then at the same moment, I thought, ooh, that's a terrible idea. And that's what was going on in my head. So anyway, it was awesome. The fans loved it. I mean, can you imagine? You're a fan, you're there, you see this thing, and the next thing you know, this legend is up hugging you and celebrating with you. What a great moment. And I was just glad to be there. He was pushed and pulled around quite a bit, and he was fine, but he was just a little bit winded and he was dehydrated. And so it was cool. It was unnerving a little bit, but hey, you know, what a great moment.
Absolutely. One of my greatest moments since I've been involved with the NHRA, to have been there and worked in the scene. Just tremendous. That and Clay Millican's first win, just moments that stand out above the rest for the most part. Pretty amazing stuff. Pretty amazing.
Absolutely. I agree with you on both accounts.
Dr. Phil, thank you so much for coming on WFO Radio. I know we have discussed and had some conversations out there in the pit area. I'm glad we could have this one for the audience out there. I really appreciate what you do. Most importantly, the calm and confidence you give to the racers, their, the crew members and their families. It's something that, you obviously know about, but I see it out there, and that is invaluable. It is so important. It gives them the confidence to go out there and lay it all on the line, and that makes the sport exciting. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for sharing your story here on WFO Radio. I think it is great. There are a lot of things that I didn't even fully understand about, the depths of, the fact that you had worked on pro stock cars, and the bug has bitten you badly, just like the rest of us. And I think it is great. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for what you do.
Hey, man, thank you. I really appreciate it, and it's an honor to be asked to be on your show. I really appreciate it. I enjoy your show every week. You do a great job, and it's a lot of fun talking to you on your podcast and at the races. And of course, for all your fans out there, and you, if you guys ever need anything, just let me know. I'll be happy to try to help in any way. And thanks again for having me on.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. Dr. Phillip Surface with us here on WFO Radio. He is NHRA's medical director and has got a rich background in automotive and NHRA drag racing, pro stock, so many great stories. I learned a lot of things that I did not know. But what I do know is that he gives confidence to the racing community when he is there, and that is invaluable. It's simple as that. It is invaluable, and I appreciate him for coming on the show. I appreciate him for listening to the show, and we've had a couple of conversations out there about things that have happened, etc. He mentioned Big Daddy, and you don't always get a lot of time to talk, deep conversations, but it happens every now and again, and that's how you get to know more and more people, and it's one of the best things about the job or being out on tour, whatever the capacity. You get to meet these amazing people who are hardworking and go-getters and really caring, nice, wonderful people. And he is one of those people. He is doing a great job, and we had a great conversation in Chicago, which is what led to this, where he heard my story about going to Washington, D.C. with my dad about the United States Marine Corps, and we started talking about 8th and I and the Marine Barracks and the President's Own band, all of these things. And it led to this. Just amazing stuff. And thanks to Phil for coming on the show. Thank you, sir. And maybe not the last time, certainly. More things to come. The first time someone is on, it's always like, who are you? What do you do? How do you get here? And then the WFO audience knows you. Simple as that. And we're going to get to know Brian Wagner as well. He'll be coming up next, dragzine.com. He is one of the writers on there and does a podcast, invited me on his podcast a couple of weeks back. Hopefully you checked it out, and I'm returning the favor because I think that's the right thing to do. What, we're reciprocating here? Yes, cross-pollinating among the media. I love that. That's why we have Johnny D and Wes Buck and Bobby Bennett and others on the show. Brian Loans on the show as often as is possible. And more. There has not been anybody that you don't know about the blacklist. You guys don't know about it. The blacklist. The people that are banned from WFO. Yeah. Maybe someday. You got to listen to Ignition to hear that one. Right? But right now, it's time to tell you about samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. 713-683-3817. There's a million ways to say it. But you've got to control your future. And so if you're 75 years old and you want to go to machinist school, okay, I think you should go to Samtech. But if you're 22 years old, and I've been to the campus and I've seen the age of the people that are there, and they're exactly who you'd think they would be. Young go-getters who want to get an education so that they can be in the field that they love and appreciate. Samtech.edu, located in the Houston, Texas area. And they've got blockhead CNC programs, motorsport EFI tuning, CNC machining, all of these different programs, an associate of applied science degree, all available. But most importantly, it's the learning environment and the connections. Once you learn the trade, you learn the basics, now you need to break in. How are you going to break into racing? How are you going to break in with a team? And the answer is people like Samtech have got connections all over the place that are known and trustworthy. They trust them. They've already received graduates who have come in and worked and been successful. And that is one of the best benefits of samtech.edu. Go to the website. Give them a call. 713-683-3817. 713-683-3817. And if you're a person out there, I'm going to stop saying young person. If you're a person out there who would love to be involved in racing, or certainly have a career like CNC machining or electronic fuel injection, they have got programs for you. Plus, they're a military-friendly school, and you can use the GI Bill if you are able to, which is a fantastic benefit. Go to samtech.edu, check them out, and I always use this time to plug the Factory Stock Podcast, which is brought to you by Samtech. You always learn a lot about Factory Stock Showdown, and you learn a lot about Samtech on that show, especially since a lot of the graduates work in the category. That's samtech.edu. We'll be back with Brian Wagner from Dragzine after this.
Everybody, listen carefully.
Now you listen to me. Why do you listen? WFO, you guys are number one.
Honest. Listen.
Hey everybody, Joe here, and I hereby decree on behalf of the WFO universe, the summer is here, and that means it's time to grill. Get yourself some Rodax Coffee and Grills.com, barbecue, spice rub, hot sauce, and of course, incredible coffee. They've got the WFO Radio Blend, they've got the Bang the Blower, they've got the exotics. It's all roasted fresh per your order, representing the top 5% of coffee throughout the world. Go to RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com or give Marvin a call. 817-924-6821 for RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. If you're looking for extra horsepower, check out WilsonManifolds.com, the leader in intake manifold and nitrous oxide development. They've set records and won championships in just about every series in professional racing. Sprint Cup, Nationwide, Camping World Truck Series, NHRA Pro Stock, right up to the Nitro classes. If you're looking for extra horsepower, check out the leader in intake and nitrous development, at wilsonmanifolds.com. You've been listening to WFO Radio for a long time now, and you hear these racers all talking about how much they spend, how much they travel, how hard they work, all to accelerate really, really quickly. Well, Frank Hawley and Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School has figured a way for you to do it at a fraction of the price, the work, the effort, the time. It is a fun experience. It's called the Dragster Adventure. Go to frankhawley.com and investigate. No ride along. You drive it. You are the driver. It's called the Dragster Adventure. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more and tell them you heard it on WFO.
This is Jeff Rice, a.k.a. Deep and Hot. I just want to let you know that NHRA Nitro is probably the best coverage of NHRA drag racing, period. How can you not like a 3.5-hour broadcast with all the winners specifically for drag racing? WFO rules the airwaves.
Now, back to WFO Radio NHRA Nitro.
Final segment, NHRA Nitro podcast. Got a lot going on in the world of the NHRA. If you're going to be out there at Brainerd, BIR, look me up, say WFO, say what's up. I want to tell you about HusseyPerformance.net, quality copper head gaskets. David Allen and the team over there at Hussey Performance really doing a great job. Everything made in America. That is very big for me. But here's the deal. If you got tractor pull engines, Honda engines, whatever it is, they can make the head gaskets. And if you got to keep that explosion inside the cylinder. It's as simple as that. Go to HusseyPerformance.net and check out their website. See exactly what they've got, because they can make anything for anything when it comes to quality copper head gaskets. They're on board with Sean Bellemure and the Bartone brothers, and their phone number is 724-318-8292. Everything is made right there in Ambridge, Pennsylvania. And you might be wondering, like, why? Why is Hussey better than everybody else? And the answer is they know how and where to buy copper. The tolerances are 0.005 of an inch. That is how tight the tolerances are at HusseyPerformance.net. 724-318-8292. That's David Allen's phone number. And he will answer the phone, and you tell him, hey, I heard about it on WFO Radio. Is it true? And he'll tell you all about it. 724-318-8292 or gaskets at HusseyPerformance.net. Check them out. All right, my time at the tail end of the show. But before we get to that, I want to bring on our next guest. Joining us now, he writes for Dragzine. He does his own podcast, and he was kind enough to invite me on that podcast a few weeks back. Hopefully all you WFO Radio listeners were able to check it out. It was really great stuff. This is Brian Wagner. Brian, welcome to WFO Radio. How are you?
Doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, listen, I believe in cross-pollination when it comes to different media sources and outlets and exchanging ideas and all that. And I was thrilled and honored that you invited me on your show. And so the least I could do is get your opinion, especially after those unbelievable photos you took this past weekend at Night Under Fire. I'm not blowing smoke. Some of the coolest drag racing photographs I have ever seen. Please tell me those are your photos that you took through your lens.
Oh yeah, those were all shot right by me right there at Norwalk during the big finale of the event.
I shared them. Bill Bader shared them, and then I shared them on our WFO Radio Facebook page for all you listeners out there. But listen, I have heard, and you've told me, and Caps has told me, and just now Cruz told me, everyone has told me that this is an event that, yes, it is worth buying a plane ticket and flying to and going to, and in the future I will. Some are saying, though, that this might have been the best ever. You tell me. What do you think?
I've been, since I started working in the media full time, I've never been able to go to this event just because of scheduling conflicts. And this year it just happened to open up that I could go. So I jumped up there and went. And to say it's a show is honestly an understatement. I mean, it just, everything there, the way the baiters pack it in, completely sold out. It was absolutely unreal to be at. If you're a drag racing fan, this is something you got to put on your bucket list to go to, hands down.
Well, after I saw the photographs, and for those that don't know, use the theater of the mind here. Bob Mote's jet truck on the starting line, and the wall of sponsors sign that's behind the starting line at Norwalk. The whole thing like every square inch and then some, totally on fire, and you captured it in such an amazing way. It made me wonder, though, did they, and you might not know the answer to this, did they soak it with some sort of flammable material so that it goes up? It just was incredible the way that whole thing was a raging inferno.
Oh, no, they didn't soak it with anything. That was actually, he kind of mildly hit it the first time he did during the first show run, and kind of crisped the edges like a nice marshmallow. So that kind of laid the groundwork for when we went back out there and just absolutely hammered that thing. It was unreal to see in person. The photos were going to look, and I got back and pulled off the card, and my first reaction was, whoa, that was kind of intense.
Oh, it was intense. It's like the whole photograph is fire, and then there's this tiny little truck right in the middle, and it was cool. 6 Nitro Funny Cars as well. That's pretty impressive for a Saturday night show. I know Bader goes big. How did they pull that off? Like, what was it? Like, round robin? How did they pull off the eliminator? How does that work?
They did like a Chicago-style deal where it was everybody ran one round, then they brought them back in the final where the two quickest people kind of ran for the championship. So it was cool to do it that way because then the fans could see all the cars run twice, and they did the same thing with the gassers they had there as well. So it kind of really gave you an interesting and awesome Nitro experience for sure.
Wow, very cool, very cool. Well, Bill Bader is the man, but he wasn't the only one working this weekend. We had World Series of Pro Mod out there at Bandamere, and US 131 had Top Fuel Dragsters, Clay and Dom Lagana, and probably some other stuff going on. This is a big weekend for drag racing all over the country.
Oh, yeah. Speed Video had the World Series of Pro Mod, so I was trying to, when I was up in the tower, when I had a spare second, I was kind of watching that on the live, what was going on there. And that event is definitely wild just for the simple fact that you throw that much cash up for Pro Mod drivers. And they're always they're a little different breed of cat anyway because they like to go stupid fast in door cars. And when they see that much money, they're going to pull out all the stops and melt those cars down Chernobyl style to try to win.
Yes, and $100,000, man. That's a lot of money, So I focus on the NHRA Mellow Yellow Drag Racing Series because the world of drag racing is just so deep, from the stock eliminator to Outlaw 10.5. There's just so many different flavors of the ice cream. You delve into it all for the most part with your Dragzine podcast and Dragzine in general.
Yeah, that's a cool thing that I really dig about Dragzine is I get to cover everything drag racing related, and there's so much out there, and it really lets me kind of explore different areas of it. Starting in August, I get to travel almost for 6 weeks straight, and I went to Outlaw Armageddon, huge no prep race, went to the Night of Fire, taking a week off, going to an NMCA race, then I'm going to the U.S. Nationals. And then I'm rounding all my travel out with a trip to Eldora for some dirt track racing to cover that as well. So that's a little added bonus. But basically in the span of a month, I get to see every major kind of flavor of drag racing. And that's just totally awesome.
It absolutely is. So let me bring you into my world, though, and talk a little Mellow Yellow Series. I always refer to it as the pinnacle of NHRA drag, or of drag racing, frankly. There's all kinds of different flavors. There's outlaw. There's professional style. I gravitate to what I deem to be the Major League Baseball of drag racing. It just makes sense to me. And that's where I started. I'm also a bracket racer. What do you think about the status of the Mellow Yellow Series right now as it gets ready to go into its biggest, most significant portion of the year? We've got Brainerd this weekend. We've got the U.S. Nationals. And then we have got the NHRA Countdown, their playoff system, which causes a reset in the point standings. And everybody's got to go again, but they've got to be at their best for 6 races all at the same time.
I think coming into all of that, it's, the overall health and everything going on, the on-track product's amazing. There's so much parity, I think, of what's going on in these teams and who's doing what. And then going into the countdown, it just makes it interesting because, it's a fight to get into the top 10. You got people like Cruz Pedregon right now. It's trying to knock his way in. And then even when you get in, that doesn't necessarily, give you any credence on what's going to happen, because look in the past where, the number one person's gone in the countdown and not won the championship. So it adds a different layer to it, and I think it makes it interesting on how these teams are going to perform, and like you said, at the pinnacle of the sport.
There's certainly a drama on both ends of it. We've seen Robert Hight barely make it and go on to win the championship. We've seen guys who start off with the lead and they fall on their face. And what will happen this year? And if you look at the points leaders, like Steve Torrence, for instance, it's been a cruise. I don't want to call it a cakewalk, so to speak, because they've earned it every step of the way. But all of a sudden, now you got to do it again. You got to go again, and you've got to confirm the fact that you've been the best all year with this playoff performance.
Yeah, and that's what I think makes drag racing so interesting is there's no white flag. There is no additional lap to make up for a bad performance. It's win or go home. And anybody that's worked on a car, been a part of a team will tell you it's a grind. And at that level, it's even more of a grind. So to battle it out to make that top 10, even if you're Steve Torrence, and then know that you still got to go through and be at your top level for 6 more races, it's far from easy for anyone, because you never know when Murphy's Law or bad luck's going to smack you, and then, it puts you back to square one or even worse.
Yeah, so true. And the $5 part that we always hear about in every form of racing just jumps up and bites you, and then some self-inflicted mistake gets you again, and now you're fighting from behind, and you really got your back against the wall. But that's all entertainment for us. Now, when you're watching some of the drivers out there, I am interested to hear who you find compelling. Right? Like, we're always looking for big personalities. Of course, John Force just won his 150th, and John is the man and really delivered the sport to where it is from, the tail end of the 80s till right now. John has been the face of the sport of NHRA drag racing and has done a great job. But there has to be other people, and that is the challenge that I think. We see John run into the grandstands out in Seattle. It was an epic moment. I got to experience it, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, but nobody else goes into the grandstands. Nobody else, why is no one else thinking of this? Like, he's endearing himself to these people.
I think it might be something at some point where maybe some of the guys and gals are just a little bit, it comes to maybe, like you said, it plays in the big league thing. It's the corporate image. They're maybe worried if they let too much personality loose, it could be taken the wrong way. But then you get people that, don't care and kind of say what's on their mind. So there definitely, when you talk to some of these racers, there's big personalities out there. And of course, one of the ones that I've had experience with is Stevie Fast Jackson. That dude he's like a mini John Force with what he says, and he drives a door car. So the personalities are out there. I just think the drivers need to just open it up a little bit more to really bring that forward.
Yeah, I would agree. Stevie Fast, someone that I have gotten to know relatively recently, as in since he has been involved in NHRA drag racing with the E3 Sparkplugs Pro Modified series. And he has been very gracious in that, now I can, walk into his pit and ask him questions, and we do a lot of social media stuff. I know he's got a long-term goal. He wants to run Nitro because that's what drag racers do. Ultimately, you want to run Nitro. But he's got the formula, which is let it fly. Just say what you want to say. And if you got to clean it up afterwards, do it. But you probably won't, because people will take it the right way because they get what you're doing. You're trying to have a good time and grow the sport.
Oh, totally. And that's the thing with Stevie is he not only talks the talk, he walks the walk. There's a lot of people that you don't want to race against in drag racing in a certain sense, because that they're going to drive over their crankshaft to pick up the win. He's one of them. He will drive the proverbial doors off whatever he's in to pick up the win. And if it ends up that he's got to cross the finish line upside down and on fire to get the win light, well, hope you got your race car insurance paid up, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and we just had Cruz on, and he was talking about the Daredevil aspect of it, and I think those are connected. He mentioned Daredevil, he mentioned Evel Knievel, he mentioned like these iconic characters that will just do things that other people would never even consider doing. And I think Stevie Fast is one of those guys. Like, he talks about blowing it up, doesn't care about parts, like got to win the race, and that is very exciting to hear him talk like that.
Oh, yeah. You see him just from his outlaw racing days where they'll literally melt a car down to pick up the, a $5,000 graduation win. It's like, well, I got the win. I got the street cred. Let's just put it back together. And I think if there was some of the Nitro racers that maybe imported some of that into their smack talk a little bit more. It'd definitely be interesting because some of these guys and gals have some great personalities. They just need to flash them and bring them forward for the fans more.
Exactly. Well, I think we're seeing it. It's not an overnight thing, but I think we are starting to see more and more, which is good. But, there's always that corporate line, though. You don't want to upset the shareholders, so to speak. And then letters come flooding in, and next thing you know, you're out of a sponsor. So there is a line that you got to worry about. But I don't know that the line is that fine. I think that people can get away with a lot more than they think that they can.
Oh, yeah, totally. There's definitely a lot of room for some healthy smack talk and, kind of pushing that personality and, bringing that forward, back to the days, like you said, when I grew up watching John Force interviews, when I was a kid, we would literally, everything would stop when John would speak because you literally never knew what was going to come out of his mouth with the wild hair and the dirty fire suit. And I think drag racing needs to bring more of that back now that, there's so much potential for this sport as far as bringing it to the masses even more, especially since it's more of a in-person experience that, we in the sport need to make that happen.
Well, exactly. And through, shows like yours and sites like Dragzine and, of course, shows like mine, we're trying to give these people the opportunity to throw it out there. And some of them take it and some of them don't. And it depends on the mood you catch them in also, right? Like if you catch somebody at the right moment, you never know what they will or will not say.
Oh, totally. I've interviewed guys in the pits where they're just completely chilled and relaxed. And then I've also interviewed them after something insane has happened and they're pegged off the charts. And it's easier to catch those moments on film, I think, than it is in the written word. So it depends on the situation. But yeah, catching these guys and gals at the right time is just critical in kind of bringing that across, and the raw emotion and the fact that they're still shaking at the top end after something good or bad happened, helps quite a bit. And I think even if it's, kind of controversy also will breed a little bit of, viewership and bringing people in, because there's, certain level where something goes viral like that, it could, draw people in. They're like, man, that looks like a spectacle. I want to check that out. You need to get your hooks into those fans more.
Well, exactly, right? Like the person that is not sold but not against. There's so many of them out there in the world, right? They're bored by life. They've been doing the exact same thing that they've been doing for 10, 15 years now. They're looking for something new, and they don't know about drag racing. There are a lot of them out there.
Well, it's just a matter of capturing even more the casual hot rodder or motorsports fan. Like, if I have time to watch TV, I gravitate more towards watching any kind of motorsport that's on. Doesn't matter if it's tractor pulling or F1. If it's on, I'm going to watch it, or at least try to. And if it draws me in, I'm going to keep going and keep wanting to watch it and start following it. And I think that's, kind of, it's the same vein with NASCAR. What made it so interesting for so long was it had the personalities, it had that culture, and it kind of got away from it. And in my opinion, that's why it's suffering so much. And that's why dirt track racing still has such a hardcore following, because they let them boys do what they need to do, and it's a great product to watch.
Yeah, and they live it. And that's another thing, is now in the world, everybody wants total real, genuine, the real deal. And the dirt track world, there's no room to be fake there, because it's such a grind. Like, those guys got to go nonstop, many days, lots of travel. It is total lifestyle. And the people that are into it, they love it.
Oh, they eat it up. They love, they love the boo Scott Bloomquist and love to cheer on whoever else. And it's just, it falls exactly in the same vein as drag racing. And I think being able to cross-pollinate and capture more of those fans to watch is something that should be a focus for sure.
So as we get ready to go into Brainerd, the Lucas Oil Nationals, followed by the U.S. Nationals, which you will be at, and the NHRA Countdown, give me a couple of your, hot headlines, things to watch, things that are on your mind, things that are have caught your eye that you will be focused on from this point through the countdown.
Will we see Leah Pritchett be able to catch fire and do what she needs to do to potentially win a championship? Will John Force be able to kind of seal that deal and pick up that, 17th title? And who the heck's going to win right now with kind of all the parity going on there? So there's some interesting stuff going on, I think.
Yeah, Pro Stock is insane. We're just having that conversation with Alan Reinhart, in that it was 2 or 3 years ago where people were, not even 2 years ago, last year even, people were talking about pro stock as if it was going to be gone, off the schedule, like that's it, kill it, it's over, forget it. People were talking about that, which I thought was crazy and unfounded, but I get it.
That opening.
But now it's one of the healthiest categories in that they've had full fields each time and anybody can win.
Oh, yeah. You hear people complain about, it's all kind of the same car, same this, that, and the other. You go with, in drag racing, you go with what wins. You go with what works. Camaros work. That's why people use a lot of Camaros. And I think, my counterpoint to that is, well, then that shows you who the drivers and the tuners are. Because if they're all that close on the playing field, then they have to figure out how to get as much blood out of those turnips as possible. And that's what makes it interesting, because it's not always the big dogs that you think are going to win. It's the people that have figured out the track that weekend, and they keep each other honest.
Absolutely. The best racers are the ones that win on any given weekend. And ultimately, that's part of the evolution of everything, right? Like, you get to the point where everyone figures it out. And now it's who figures it out on this given weekend in these given conditions. Early on, not everybody had it figured out. Who had a little trick, who had something secret they were doing. It's 2019. Everybody's got it pretty much figured out. It's about who can perform the best on a given weekend.
Yeah, and that's why, the drag racing nerd in me likes pro stock, because it's just that you're trying to conquer man, machine, and track surface, because you're dealing with killer drivers. You're dealing with machines that if you look at them wrong, they're going to lose a tenth. And then you're dealing with track surfaces that change by the pass. So it's being able to understand how to make all that work together. And, the smallest tuning call can turn you from a hero to a zero real quick.
And that's it. No win light, you're done, like you mentioned a little bit earlier. Brian, you on the Twitter machine? Give some social accounts. Let our audience know where they can follow along with your work.
The easiest places, of course, dragzine.com, the Dragzine podcast, Dragzine Instagram page. Those are the main places you can find me and, what I do, and follow the stories that we put out. And, check us out. I want to hear some more fan interaction on the podcast, hear what people want to talk or who they want me to talk to. But, those are the easiest places to find me. I would tell them to follow me on my personal social media page, but that's a complete dumpster fire, and they just don't want to deal with the insanity that goes on there.
No, listen, I understand, like, the merging of the worlds is always very, very challenging. I would suggest to the audience, you got to go see the photos. Like, whatever else, it doesn't matter. You got to go see the photos, because they are some of the best photographs I've ever seen. And I'm so fortunate I get to hang out with and see some of the best photographers in the world, and their shots are amazing. But if you like fire, and you like jets, and you like Bob Moats, and you like the idea of a building being burnt down to the ground by a jet truck, you got to check out Brian's photographs. They're amazing. Brian, thank you for coming on WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Obviously, I will see you out there at the Chevrolet Performance U.S. Nationals. Everything gets real right now, man. It's critical time. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for coming at me on, Joe, and I look forward to seeing you at Indy.
Thanks, Brian. Brian Wagner with us here on WFO Radio. Had me on his Dragzine podcast. Hopefully you guys all listened. It was very interesting, and it is fun to be on the other side of the interview. I really like doing it. I like going on other people's shows and, wreck and shop, right? Going in all kinds of different directions, chaos. And I wanted to invite him on ours. And so check him out. Good guy. And I'll see him at Indy. And none of that matters. The picture he took of Bob Moats is going to live forever. That is amazing. It should be like the cover photo. They should make posters. Moats should sell the poster. It's pretty spectacular. Thanks to Brian for coming on the show. And, of course, Dr. Phil and Cruz Pedregon and Alan Reinhart. Right now, though, I want to tell you about Hangstifer's Metalworking Lubricants, Hangstifer's Laboratories. Dr. Hangstifer started in 1937, and now teams like JFR and DSR both agree that Hangstifer's Metalworking Lubricants are helping them in the shop. They have the best available products to help your metalworking processes. So if you've got a machine shop, if you've got a factory, you want to call on Hangstifer's. And they are worldwide. They have more than 100 affiliates throughout the world, and their global network is perfectly integrated to help with R&D and manufacturing facilities with the best service available. Here's what to do. Go to hankstafurs.com or call 800-433-LUBE. That is 800-433-LUBE. If you've got a machine shop, if you've got a factory, why would you want to do this? It makes your cutting processes better. It helps your tools last longer, and it makes you more efficient. All of these things make for a better product and a better business. Hankstafurs.com, 800-433-LUBE for Hankstafurs metalworking lubricant. That is Dr. Hankstafurs since 1937. All right, time for my time, the tail end of the show. First of all, just final thoughts. Cruz Pedregon, fired up. I loved it. I love when people are fired up. Now, you might be wondering, like, well, why didn't you ask Cruz about the whole Donald Longdare thing? And that's because it's not happening yet. And it's about a year away. Those things, to me, I have a tough time hyping stuff a year out. When we turn the year or get a little closer after the season is over, I'll dive into that stuff with Cruz. Right now, I think Cruz is more concerned with making the NHRA countdown, frankly, winning a race. And knowing some of the guys on the team a little bit, I know that they're very, very focused. That's number one, but I love the fact that Cruz was so fired up. Next up, World Series of Pro Mod, $100,000. Scott Oaksis picks up the win over Doug Winters. And to me, you win $100K, that is a huge, huge deal. Congratulations to him, and also Wes Buck and that group for putting on a great race. Getting into the water and promoting a race. To me, that is awesome. I would love to promote a race, right? I don't have the guts. I don't have the horsepower, baby. That is awesome that they were able to do that World Series of Pro Mod. $100K. And J.B. Strasweg picking up the win in Top Dragster. Greg Lair picking up the win in Top Sportsman. I wonder if Greg Lair went nuclear. Again, Greg Lair, he dominates up there when it comes to Top Sportsman, right? He won last year at the Mile Highs, or 2 years ago. No, he won last year, and then he won this year, and then he won this. He should not run Top Sportsman anywhere else. Simple as that, Greg Lair. But great job by those guys. Dr. Phil Surface, just awesome. Great interview. Appreciate him coming on. Brian Wagner was good. And Alan Reinhart, of course. And Alan was the first guy to bring me into the zoo several years ago now, and I remember it was epic. Hopped on the old school announcer cart and went out there, and I really didn't know what I was going to see. I didn't understand. And those shows are probably still in the WFO archive. You can go back and find it. WFO is in our 10th season. I have only been working for the NHRA for, I think, 7 years now, 7 seasons. And it's a worthwhile listen. But here's the story. So we go out there, and it's a little bit of a drive, and I don't know what I'm going to see, right? And I'm not a big camper, so campgrounds are not really my thing. But it's like, oh, man, all these vehicles and people dragging stuff and floats, and the further out you go, the more intense it gets. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, man, you're in the mix. And you could see that things were getting a little crazy. Now, I don't mean nudity crazy. It's not like that. It's more just people having fun on their vehicles, running around this various circuits, trails that you go around with campgrounds to the left and to the right. But on this particular year, our friend Brian Cooper, the Nitro Pirate, had created his pirate ship. And they had the sound system from the NHRA up on the pirate ship. And there was a guy that used to work at the Harley-Davidson display, nicknamed Dump Truck. And he had a voice that was designed for being a PA guy. And he once told me the name of the afflictions, like fractured voice or something. But anyway, he sounded like this. And that's the best I could do it. But he's even way worse than this, like Pharrell. Right? Him and Pharrell have the same thing. If you don't know who Pharrell is, it's Pharrell on the Bench, sports talk radio guy I used to work with in the MIA for a little while. Pharrell. So all of a sudden in the distance, I hear this noise. And I'm like, what is going on? What is that? And it's getting closer, and it's getting closer, and there's music. Pirate. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And suddenly, from around a corner, there was like trees blocking it, emerges this thing. It's like a pirate ship. It's 2 long station wagons and people standing on the top and speakers, and they're yelling, and it's like, something you saw in like the first scenes out of Mad Max. what's going on here? And they're like, there's Alan Reinhart. And it was hysterical. And I thought, the zoo, man, wow. You only get one chance to make a first impression. And my first impression of the zoo was insanity. Wow, this is great. I want to be here forever. So we started to drive around, and then Alan Reinhart eventually was like, all right, I'm out of here. What are you going to do? I was like, I'm going back. And so I went back, and I drove around, and I drove around more, and I saw people, and I hung out, and then I lost my phone, and it was a big problem. But fortunately, I called it, and somebody, Camp Pallet, was a big help. And the folks at Camp Pallet were just so gracious and helpful. And I called my phone, and somebody delivered me my phone, and it had been run over by a golf cart like 500 times. But that was my first time in the zoo. And it was amazing. Now, my second time in the zoo or third time in the zoo, not as amazing. In fact, there's another Camp Pallet story in that I'm hanging out there and some girls were like, hey, would you take a picture of us? I was like, of course I will take a picture of you. That's what I'm here for. You know, everybody knows that the guys are hanging out just so they could take pictures of the lovely ladies. That's really our only purpose, and that and some other stuff. And so, of course, I'll take a picture of you. So if I take her phone and her camera, whatever the heck it was, and I take the photograph. And then I hand it back to her, and it goes, she disappears. And that's it. And I'm minding my own business, thinking happy thoughts. This is great. Isn't this great? Because wherever you are, act like it's the place to be. And I was. And then I encountered a person. This guy comes up, and he's like, hey, man. It's like, hey, man. He's like, you just took my picture. It's like, what do you mean? And it's like, I was in the background of that photo you just took. And unless you want to have problems, you better go get that camera and delete it. And I was like, you got to be joking. This is a joke. You're kidding, right? I'm not kidding. You need to look at who's in the background of your pictures or else. And he's giving me some rap like he wants to fight, obviously. This guy's a little drunk, and he's a little wasted, and he's a little kind of off. And he decides that he's going to come and get me and start some nonsense with me. So I'm in an interesting situation because I don't want to get into a fight in the zoo. No one's getting in a fight in the zoo. I don't hear about that. It's a happy place where there's only happy people. I am confused by what I am dealing with here. Why is this person acting this way? Everybody is having a fun time. There's pretty girls all around, So I decided, this is not a time for physical confrontation. This is a time to get myself out of this. I was like, you know what? You're right. I am going to go get the camera, and I will be back in a minute. And I just disappeared. But there it is. And that's when I coined the phrase, don't be a zoosh. When you're acting kind of like jerky in the zoo. Don't be a zoosh. And that's it. The code of conduct was born. Go out there, have fun, respect others, have a good time. That's it. Don't be a zoosh. And you'll be okay inside the zoo. And ever since, it has been great. Now, it's gotten better and better. Like last year, I was able to go out there with Tobler and rolling out with Force. Not John Force, but like a large number of people. Was really cool and very fun. Who knows what will happen this year? There have been years that have skipped it. Just, you never know. You always got to get back to the hotel. It's just not worth it. Anyway, that's going to do it. I will see you next time right here on WFO. Ignition will be one of the road shows. Roadshow Ignition coming at you. I will probably be somewhere between Minneapolis and Brainerd. Who knows? But if you haven't heard the John Force interview, John was on with us last week. He claims it was the first off-track interview he gave outside of the track in Seattle, which is awesome. John was extremely complimentary towards WFO and you, the podcast audience. Like, he was talking about you guys specifically. You need to check out John Force. And last week's show, Austin Prock, great stuff. Matt Hartford, great stuff. Matt Hartford coming on as a sponsor. How about that? And think about those people. In the end, you can get your WFO Radio T-shirts at the Nitro Fish trailer. You can get them online. Everybody has been taking pics and sending me, here's me with my shirt. That's kind of cool, and I love it. Our sponsors, though. Our sponsors. If you're an engine builder and you need to buy piston rings, you can buy piston rings from anybody. But if you're a WFO Radio listener, we encourage you to buy them from Total Seal now. If you're an engine builder and you use copper head gaskets, right? Copper head gaskets. Well, you want really good ones. And I'm sure there are good brands out there. But Hussey Performance supports WFO. And Hangstifer's Metalworking Lubricants. Samtech, you're going to go to a technical school. Why would you not go to Samtech? That would just be crazy. Magic Dry US. Rodax Coffee and Grills.com. When I get all on you about the holidays coming, I am serious. Be like me. Call Marvin and buy a bunch of Rodax holiday packs. People are very happy and satisfied with them. You don't have to reinvent the wheel on this one. A pound of coffee, a bottle of hot sauce, and a bottle of spice rub, and you are golden, and they love you. RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. And if you want to get, like, really, really special, the Dragster Adventure at FrankHawley.com. And they give you a gift certificate, and they can figure out where in 2020 they want to go to the Dragster Adventure. And be sure to tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Plus, Drag Racing Edge magazine, you should definitely be subscribed to that. And EB3 Drag Racing, the game, you should definitely be playing all of these things. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. I appreciate it. We're going to be doing some things come around U.S. Nationals time. Keep your ear to the ground when it comes to WFO. Hopefully, we'll get some things dialed in between now and then. All right, everybody, that's it. Thank you so much to our guest, Dr. Phil, Cruz Pedregon, of course, the Cruiser, Brian Wagner, and Alan Reinhart. We'll see you next time right here on WFO Radio.
WFO! The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
I love WFO Radio.
Oh, yeah.